Yeah, fire department did.
I've seen a couple of pictures of it. Looked like they had fun.
Yeah, when I drive by the parade.
I'm sorry I missed it.
Russell Hart said, "You coming in?" And I just waved my big club hand.
I could have put a sleeve over it. Could have worked.
I couldn't.
Trash
I
bag
didn't.
around it.
Yeah.
But I didn't. All right. Welcome to the Bradley County Commission meeting 7/7/22. Please join and pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Morning, Christian.
Morning.
Any public comments? Any comments, Catherine?
Well, I'm hoping to get back into the chambers next week on Monday. Been talking to Elizabeth about some things I need in my office. So yeah, if everything goes well at the doctor tomorrow, gives me the clearance, I'll be happy to get back there. So
All right. Right. Well, good luck on that.
yeah, thanks.
John.
Yeah. Well, it's been a week again. Seems like we've had a lot of those lately. Week in between meetings.
Yeah.
Thursday afternoon, I met with Natalie Gordon, who's the chair of the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce's Child Care Task Force. Put that one into an acronym. This group's been working pretty diligently to try and alleviate some of the challenges with child care and those type of services in the area. They have developed a pretty solid plan, at least from my perspective, and strategy that possibly covers some of the broad lines, including recruiting and retaining a local workforce and keeping them here, and possibly even having one or several they call child care incubators that could have multiple components for those that have child care concerns and needs. Of course, with a lot of those things, seed money is needed to get these things established and permanent funding for potential personnel operations, but at least there's some ideas floating around, and probably still requires a little bit of depth and vision kind of connected to it, but working pretty hard on trying to at least alleviate some of the some parts of those challenges. So also on Thursday, I listened to the Connecting Kansas County Zoom call hosted by KAC. This month's presentation was actually a repeat of last month's with the gentleman from Facebook and Meta talking about social media interactions and legalities. But interestingly enough, as you can probably imagine, there was a set of whole new questions and dialogue that came up in there, and it was pretty interesting to listen to. KAC followed up with some updates on their own. Mentioned the 7th annual City Hall Selfie Day. I know we tried to do something, just send pictures last year from the courthouse and the Carnegie building. I've talked to Vivian about a couple of maybe creative things we could do to, my intent is to win that competition, because I don't get into a competition without the means of trying to win it. So, and then several other counties from across Kansas had staff and people on there that gave some updates on what they're doing and working on as well. I spent the weekend for the 4th of July holiday out in Ellis County, Saturday through Tuesday. A college buddy of mine and his immediate extended family had a pretty good time. For the most part, I got to play pyrotechnician and volunteer firefighter. So really got to hone a couple of different skills as we set a couple of bushes and part of a lawn on fire. But hey, freedom, liberty, hey. And at least it was his property and not somebody else's. So
Never crimes were being reported.
Yeah.
oh, I know.
I heard it implied accidentally.
Well, it wasn't set on me by fire. I took the time to not have to call emergency services and on the taxpayer dime, and we put it out ourselves. So something to be said for that. Also, the morning of 4th of July, we went up to Plainville, which is up in Rooks County, and they had a huge 50% off fireworks sale, and that was actually pretty cool. So we had probably about $1,500 worth of fireworks throughout the day. We bought about $600 worth of fireworks that morning. That ended up costing us $3. So pretty fun. Yeah, all my friends' family, including self, they all have lots of kids and stuff. So it was a good blend of things. And of course, it was hot, very, very hot, and it even got hot for the kids. So it was hot if that's the case. So, for me, it was just needed some time just to kind of reset and readjust and just hang out and relax. And hard to believe 2022 is halfway over already. Tuesday on my way back home, I did stop at the visitor center on post at Fort Riley to pick up our longer term access passes that will be valid until April of 2024. Huge thank goes out to Janet Nichols, military community liaison from the chamber, and Tony Pablo, 1st Infantry Division protocol chief, for making this happen. Really, it was really quick. It was painless, really efficient. You got yours too. Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I figured it'd be a real long process and have to pull out different forms of ID and everything else. And it was just boom, 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 out the door. So, in fact, there was still a line of traffic trying to get in, the same line of traffic when I was trying to get back out. So, yeah, pretty good. Wednesday evening, I attended the Ogden City Council meeting. I guess that'd be last night. Gave them an update on our 2023 budget and a few other items. They had several people discussing different municipal permits, which they voted to do. City council and staff gave some updates. They're also working on putting some meeting times together for several work sessions for the 2023 city budget. Was also excited to hear on Tuesday at K-State, I think, got its quarterback. I'm going to hope for the future. Let's keep our fingers crossed. And passing day, it seems like we're picking up more and more pretty good kids. So hopefully we can keep that together in the next handful of years. We'll look pretty good. And lastly, I think I may have found myself a new superhero. His name is Joey Chestnut, and what he did on Monday in 1 hour, I don't think most of us can accomplish in a lifetime. On a bum leg, this dude ate 63 hot dogs and managed to single-handedly with one arm take down a protester. I conveniently call him the move the slingshot. If somebody comes up with a better definition for that, I'm all ears. I'm not going to copyright it just yet, but I just might. So, and with that, I'm done. If you can top that, have fun with that.
Can't top it. Can't top Joey Chestnut. Make my stomach hurt just thinking about to put that many hot dogs down. Let's see. Thursday afternoon after a meeting, I met with Julie Gibbs. Discuss some of the things going on in the health department and some things they can do for outreach in the North County areas going forward. Saturday went to Randolph for their Independence Day celebration. Usually they have everything in the park in the middle of town. Because it rains a couple inches that morning, moved a lot of it out to the parking lots along the highway where the car show was. They bring in a lot of folks with cars, nice cars out there. And then I was in the parade, and there was a good by afternoon, good crowd. A lot of people showed up.
Good.
So I think it was real successful. And then Wednesday, I met with Elizabeth to go over the work they've been doing on the salary survey. And then I also later had a discussion with Amanda about some items that I was talking about for the new comprehensive plan. And then I was also able to renew my driver's license.
Nice.
So
That's important.
got a lot of things done. And other than that, and on the birthday announcements this morning, Ringo Starr is 82.
That's not right.
That
That is not
My
right.
son's in transposition of that 28 today.
And then they said, and also Doug Severinsen is like 90, I said 94. Didn't know he was still out even.
Man, I vote we don't do birthdays anymore.
With that, we can start the business.
The first and only item is Riley County Personnel Action Form for Lana Sanger Parker for a status change as the curator of design in the museum department at grade 10, step 9. And commissioners, we have Good Morning Manhattan coming up Thursday, July 21st. Would all of you like to attend?
Sure.
It's still virtual, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Catherine,
Yeah,
Nancy,
Yes, please.
I gotta write that down.
7 to 2.
typical breakfast, commissioners.
Yep.
Okay.
When did you say that? Wait, I'm sorry.
21st, Thursday, the 21st. The waiting room opens at 7:30. It begins at 7:45. Have breakfast with here around 7:15 to 7:30-ish time period. And then commissioners also have intergovernmental luncheon coming up July 25th. Would all of you like to attend?
Yes.
Not me, Rich.
Catherine?
25th, yeah, where, is that the one at Bluemont?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
You want a lunch?
Well, sure, I guess, depends on what what they have where they're getting their food.
I
But
think,
they get it all from Coco Bolo's. It's like some beef or chicken tacos.
I think it's gonna be what we had that first one instead of the box lunch thing. That's
Oh,
what
okay,
I think.
I'll pass on that one. I'll bring a sandwich or something, so.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Commissioners have any changes to the minutes?
Does Clancy have one?
I do on page 6, number 10.
Okay, let me bring up there, Clancy.
That's, yeah, I noticed that one too.
Again.
Which number, Clancy?
Numbers 10,
Yeah.
under
Gotcha.
number 10.
Gotcha.
Under that first voting box, the time the board came back in executive session, left margin, this needs to be 9:20 instead of 9:10.
Okay. Well, I would make a motion to approve the minutes from, what date is that? June 30th, as amended.
Okay. I'll second that motion.
Been moved and seconded to approve the amended minutes. June 30th, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Commissioners, how the tentative agendas look?
I had a question on those.
Yeah, when is our work session scheduled for the budget hearings?
Well, there's a work session today on the agenda. That's the
Uh,
first. No,
That's the one at 11:15. Yeah,
Yeah.
how long will that one last? Do we know?
anyone's guess.
Okay,
It's gonna have to be short. I don't know about, I've got a 12 o'clock and on Monday, I gotta be in Topeka for a doctor's appointment, I think at 1:30, so. Guess is we won't have everything figured out over both of those anyway, so.
okay, yeah, all right, yeah, I had that one down. I just didn't know if we had a special one at some point. I guess not.
Yeah, no, that'd be something we can discuss today. Yeah, if commissioners would like to, because yeah, our timelines will start getting short for the R&R notice.
Yeah, okay.
And next Monday, though, the county officials lunch.
Well, I think Clancy was gonna ask if the commissioners.
Right, I don't think there's anything,
Oh,
unless
okay.
you had something. You wanted to discuss. We talked about doing that one originally.
Well, I think
because-
John had something, don't you have something?
Well, I did, but it ain't gonna work for me, because like I said, I gotta be at Topeka.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew someone had something was the reason we decided not to have it.
Isn't that what the MATs? But who's doing the MATC at the presentation? Is that where they're coming or where are they going? Is that been-
No, they were at the last intergovernmental luncheon.
I know, but somebody got a note about them showing up at something.
Oh, I hadn't seen it.
Hadn't either.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Must have just come in.
I know they're trying to set up some meetings with area local officials or something. I don't think they're gonna do it all at once, because they can't, but
Yeah.
they're gonna split those up to chat, so maybe that was it.
Yeah, I haven't heard nothing from them.
Well, if you don't have any objection, I'll have the meeting canceled then for
Oh,
the
yeah.
county officials.
all right.
Clancy
No.
and I were talking about that yesterday, and I thought there was one of the commissioners that had a conflict for the county officials. Any items for the press conference, commissioners?
Mm-mm.
I'll be on there for elections. Okay, then next we have Russell Stuckey at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's what it was. They sent that PowerPoint because
Oh,
that's,
yeah.
I was thinking that's for another. meeting.
Yeah, I
that was-
sent that out
It
to
was
you guys.
copied from the last meeting. Okay, I thought it was.
Yeah, I had sent that out to you guys.
You know what this Microsoft Viva thing is?
I think it's some like,
Something scheduled, but it says it's supposedly, so this is how many meetings you had this week, except only.
I think it's
Yes.
Microsoft's version of Google trying to track everything you're doing
And it
and.
doesn't have half of what
No.
on my calendar.
Did it
on
make you
there.
feel good?
Yeah, somebody else. tracked
Sometimes,
me.
most of the time, no, but every once in a while, yeah, because every once in a while, I can't figure out what I'm actually doing, so it might be good that something
Yeah,
is paying
somebody's got-
attention, but yeah.
Somebody else.
But outside of that, no.
Yeah, my oldest turned 28 today.
Thought we weren't talking about birthdays.
I will get a good meal tonight.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. 28, huh?
So I'll get pretty good meals. My wife's a great cook.
It's about that time of the year to put in a request for tamales.
That's Christmas time.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Christmas time.
Man, we got a ways to go.
Yeah. Tonight will be my son's number one and his choice every year is tostadas. So
I
that's
like
what
those
it'll be
too.
Tonight,
When
that will be his choice.
they're, I've had really, really good ones and I've had really, really bad ones, and there's, doesn't seem to ever be a lot of in between on that.
His request every year. He'll eat about 6 or 7. It'd be embarrassing. They're not small. He's not no small either, so.
Still foggy.
That was pretty good.
Rang the
I
bell.
did something similar yesterday where they're working at my daughter's house, got doing drywall, had like a scaffold aluminum thing across the stairs, and I knew it was there walking down, and I walked up and just bonk right up, and I just hit it on the right flat part where it didn't, but had I hit it on the edge or something.
Yeah.
And I just cursed at myself for being such a dummy for getting it was there and hitting it. Didn't get the result that you did for sure. My soybeans were liking this rain.
Mm. Seemed like it kind of shot up north last night. How much rain did everybody get?
We didn't get that. Well, see, I got about half an inch for all the noise. There was a lot of thunder booming.
Yeah.
I
Crash
get a
last
check
night,
mine,
but
I'd say anywhere from
we
a half
didn't
to an inch. I had water running down my driveway in spots, so.
I don't think it rained here in town till like this morning. I woke up about 4:30 and stumbled around and kind of peeked outside, and it was still dry and a couple of flashes of lightning still. And went back to bed, and it was raining when I got up right at 6:40.
It's raining just enough that the guys around me can't get in the wheat fields to get it cut, you
Oh.
know? It's just about the time it's about to dry up, and here comes another little storm like this.
You've seen quite a few implements and activity out in the fields moving out west.
My grandson was out last week. Other grandparents for harvest.
Tell you what, the corn shot up fast.
Yeah, my neighbor's corn is looking good.
Yeah.
cost you on like get it out of the field, just in fuel.
So much time. Used to credit card pay off to get gas, you just put in there, you don't think, stop and look what it was yesterday when I filled up. It wasn't filling up the pickup, just the car. It just came $1 short of 60 bucks.
Yeah, I filled up my truck the other day, last weekend, 104.
Well, that's what my truck is a 3/4 heavy duty. It's got a 35 gallon tank, but I don't, because I used to, well, what it was when that, years ago, when the gas kept going up so fast, I'll fill it up, so then use it. But I don't drive it enough, because the guy at mechanics, when I took it in for oil change, you got bad gas or just old gas? No, it's been quite a while since I left, because don't do that. It's in there too long, just whatever, about 10 gallons at a time.
Right, yeah. I drove the old Honda today to conserve some gas.
So I can't imagine. They just fill that thing now. I drive it today, my battery. Go on. Staying full.
Oh, really? Oh, no.
But mechanics right across the street. So
Uh-huh.
I just, I go over there and say, you got a jump thing, and go over and jump it.
Someone said Hy-Vee had $3.99 gas yesterday
Yes.
afternoon. They said there was a line and avoid that area.
When I came, saw you when I was in there this morning when I left, pulled up there, and you couldn't get by because the street was full of cars. And I think I looked up, it's $3.99. We had just filled up, I just filled up that car the night before.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they were backed up into the
I don't
street.
know how they were doing that, but
I didn't see if anybody else wondered if Kate, because Casey's, when they first opened, had cheap, I guess. I didn't know get down there, but
yeah, and their gas still is the cheapest in town. Mhm. That's where I go all the time now, because it's the cheapest, and I go through a lot of gas.
yeah, okay. I do year end, well, I call it year end, first of July, kind of a personal finance review and stuff. One of the years ago, started keep tracking mileage. Last few years, our mileage is doubled because before we both worked in town. We both drove 6 blocks to work. We didn't ever get very many miles.
Yeah,
And now we're retired, we're both driving a whole lot more.
expenses are going up the wrong way.
Right, it's going the wrong way. Driving into Manhattan. Oh, yeah, just ran to Manhattan to pick up something.
Now the investment accounts are going the wrong way.
Oh, yeah, mine, yeah. No, it was not good. It's not a good.
Mine was doing so good.
Yeah.
And this new economics, which I have a term for, kicked in and. So well.
But don't need it for a few years yet, so.
Yeah,
We're gonna take it out.
that's the way I look at it. I just look at it now, I'm buying it on sale. Buying it on sale, so.
Yeah, I can say we're remodeling bathrooms, so it's an investment. That's where mine's going this
I
year.
tell you, working on my daughter's house, and I told my son this, replacing some of the fascia board on the peak, because it was rotted, and I was like, was like 1 foot short of having a solid piece to get it there, so I was gonna just buy one board, and it's a 1x8 prime, nothing fancy, just pine. And I loaded the board up and I saw the price and I thought, $25 for that one board? I said, no, I said, I had some one by there. I made my own. I didn't really want to splice it in, but we'll caulk it. You'll never notice it. So I told my son last night, that one little splice I put in there, I said, you know how much? And he guessed right. He said, 25. I said, yeah. I was looking at some little pieces of trim.
Oh.
And it was about a 1x1/2. It was $5.
Mm.
2x4s used to be cheaper than that. Used to be cheaper.
Yeah,
keep your fingers crossed. We don't have a bad hurricane season.
I just heard something last week that a horrendous price increase in glass went into effect, I think, July 1st.
Mhm.
I mean, it was a huge percentage increase. I forget what it was. Yeah, it's nuts. I go to those stores a lot. You don't see as many people in the lumber areas taking as much out as you used to. That's for sure. Prices are horrendous.
That's that one section, old cedar fence that wasn't replaced last year on that. I'm paying those prices, so I'll wait till next year.
Guess you
A
wait
little
till
bit.
next year.
Now, it's a little better than last, it's not quite as
Is it?
bad as last year, but it still was, but I went ahead and did it because it was.
I got a whole cedar fence to put up, so yeah, I'm about to find out.
Let's see how good you are with lumber and wood. You've got enough cedar trees out there, just cutting your own.
Thing is, when I bought my property, my 2 hillsides were covered with them, and I took care of that problem.
Yeah.
I'm not a cedar fan, and so the old steel chainsaw. It was during the summer too that I did it. Wiped out a lot of cedars.
Burning evergreen smells pretty good though.
Mhm.
I found that out on Monday too. It's interesting too, because I mean, they took a sprinkler and we washed everything down, but yeah,
Didn't take long to dry
it
back
didn't take
out.
long to dry back up. No.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's what, yesterday when we had about a quarter of an inch, and then they had, just enough to make the afternoon something, but I
Yeah.
can't even breathe.
Yeah, which is what's gonna happen today. Of course, they were calling for hundreds and they knocked 10
Yeah, it's
degrees
dropping down.
off.
It's not supposed to get.
Still, the heat index is supposed to be horrible with that humidity today.
Hopefully we get through summer now.
Glad to see tomorrow and Saturday are gonna be a little more
Mhm.
tolerable temperature wise anyway. We'll see what the humidity is.
Maybe we get summer done early and maybe we'll have an extended fall. I could live with that. Getting football season will be nice and cool. September, October.
Your Felix, Stalmo, defensive preseason.
Yeah.
Defensive player.
We have 6 people in preseason all conference.
Yeah.
We do.
More than any other school. 3 on offense, 3 on defense. Mhm.
I think one of the keeper players, so depending on what our offensive line is like, I think our offense will roll with this new coordinator. I think he's gonna be pushing things and
You know, with Avery Johnson coming on board, it's his goal to get to 4-star receiver. It's a kid out of Blue Springs, and then there's another one out of Arizona that's,
Manning.
yeah. Jacoby something.
the one that committed to Notre Dame,
Originally, yeah.
No.
he is committed to Notre Dame, isn't he?
I thought he decommitted.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that.
No. You're talking about the other kid from Kansas.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
trying,
no.
they're gonna try and get him to
Yeah.
flip.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to get John Randall Jr., the other running
Yeah.
back from the Wichita area. I think with what you have stocked up, that's gonna be a tough get.
Yeah, I think it'll be tough because we have so many good ones now. I mean, someone's gonna be watching from the sidelines.
Which means they'll last a year and they can find somewhere else.
Morning, Russell.
Morning.
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 Pie chart, yeah. Some peach in there, some cherry, blueberry,
Thank you.
lemon.
It's
I
a
don't know.
colorful pie chart.
I don't know what to call the gray. Old. That might be the one I'll stay away from.
Moldy.
Any commissioners?
Morning, Commissioners, Russell Stuckey, Fire District Number 1 and Emergency Management. So we had, just this morning, we had 2 calls up north. They came in back to back. One was at 14,360 County Line Road, and the other one was at 13,490 Francie Creek Road. Both presumably lightning strikes. One was smell of electrical, but didn't find anything other than a couple of breakers stripped, but the other one was an actual house fire. So they had a pretty good save on it. I did go up to it. Doug and John both went up to it. It's mostly in the attic. They had to go in the house and pull down a bunch of ceiling and stuff to get to the fire, but pretty much saved the house. So that was good. So, no doubt, as you were talking about earlier with materials costs, it's still going to be an expensive repair, but did save the house. So that was good. On the 911 side, again, I think I've mentioned this already, but KSU, we had that agreement with them to upgrade to the enhanced 911 or the next gen 911, excuse me. And due to them moving from Edwards Hall to Unker Hall, that's going to be delayed for a while because it's just silly to install the equipment now and tear it out in 4 to 6 months and reinstall it. So that's going on, and we finally got quotes back from the vendors on moving some unused microwave equipment that was used in the old radio system, but is only actually 5 or 6 years old, and use it repositioning that to use it to take the place of a fiber link, an AT&T fiber link that costs us $1,200 a month right now. So it looks like we're going to be able to spend less than $10,000, reuse some equipment we already own, and save $1,200 a month going forward. So the 911 working group is has that on their agenda for this afternoon, but I can't imagine not going forward with that. So hopefully over the next 2 or 3 months, we'll save the 911 fund about $1,200 a month. So that'll be good. Obviously, we had the severe weather with the tornado, eventually a tornado.
Yeah.
And like to again thank the appraiser's office for their assistance with doing the damage assessment. We couldn't do it without them, and for sure couldn't do it in a very timely manner without them. So that's greatly appreciated. Had another event on the 21st where more tree damage.
Did they ever determine what that actually was? Was that straight line? Was that a macro or micro on the 21st? It wasn't a tornado, obviously, but.
Yeah, just straight line.
Huh.
Oh, they came out with a later report.
Not on the 21st. That was from the.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was
on
from
the first one, yeah.
Right.
Well, I've
That
never.
was the second round. And so on that round, what we had was localized flooding.
Yeah.
And so like, for example, just up the street here at the CVS McDonald's roundabout, there was a water line the next morning up into the grass from the street level up into the yard of CVS. You could see where the leaves went.
Yeah.
And there was probably, my estimate is there was 2 foot of water in that round, or maybe not in the roundabout, but immediately around the roundabout. There was probably 2 foot of water.
I thought the first time that happened, we had that flood back in May of 15 that basically turned the entire downtown region down there on 3rd Street into a river.
Mhm.
So that's not the first time. In fact, that one made the Weather Channel that night, pictures from the roundabout made the Weather Channel.
Wasn't that the one down by where the new big apartments where
Yeah.
kids were like
Canoeing in the
Canoeing
middle
down
of the
it.
street. Yeah, that was the early May of
It was shortly
15
after-
and pictures from that roundabout made the Weather Channel
It
that
was
night.
shortly after they finished that because water got into that first floor.
Yeah.
They finished that. Big apartment.
So that was a quick up, a quick down. You know, we didn't get any reports of, I'm sure people had stuff in their basements, no doubt, but we didn't get into, you know.
I tell you what, I'd never seen tree damage like that. I live over in the North area, and I mean, there's still trees sitting there. They're working on it. It takes some time, but I mean, just piled. I mean, that next morning it was a maze of. Want to talk about trying to make lumber, man? There's all kinds of lumber out there, just laying on the ground. No value at this point.
Right. One of the other highlights is, we're planning our active violence training and discussions with RCPD. They're apprehensive about doing actual like drills right away. They want to do training classes. And so as we sent out the sign up to the departments for that, the question we have for the committee that's came back. And so I'm just going to ask the commission, does the commission want that active violence training to be mandatory? Up to the commission.
What's the day?
There's multiple days. So there's like, yeah, there's like 5 or 6 options for departments that can sign up part of their people.
Yeah.
Some of the trainings are here, some of them are out of Public Works. So I think there's one health department, maybe, or 2. I can't remember now.
I didn't know.
But there's multiple sessions to sign up. So it's not just like, it's not, we're not asking to close the courthouse and have everybody go to a training for 2 hours. It's, staff can be scheduled as convenient, but the question HR has had, and then they posed to us is, does the commission want that to be mandatory or not?
I think you have to consider that some of your department heads are elected officials.
That's our big problem. The first suggested date was like November 2nd. It was like, nah, that's not gonna float. So, I mean, people think, election's done on election day. It's not. We got the canvas 2 weeks after to prepare for it. So
Sure.
I can tell you, we got budget, we got elections, we got R&R for all the taxing entities. Our workload is heavy.
And you're gonna have similar concerns in some of the other
I don't.
departments.
I think my first question on that is really. I know you got to have staff those particular trainings and everything, but I don't understand why you can't have one, at least one on a weekend, like on a Saturday morning, something like that, to where you're not really during the business day. I think in some of the departments that, constantly interact with the public and that customer service range, it's probably not a bad idea. Public Works, noxious weeds, a couple of them don't necessarily engage with the public, but, Rich's office, Shiloh's office, several other ones, that's pretty much what they do. And those, we've got to think about it probably way, because it's the world we live in today. So at some point in time, we need to think about that, but.
And if those dates are bad, that's the first exactly like what Rich said that I had heard about that. And I completely understand that we could throw, pull a date or 2 and throw another date or 2 farther out or something.
And
None of
of these, all of these, if I understood the training too, it's individual training. It's not like a shutdown of everything.
Right.
But
well, it's
still gonna
a
be-
classroom setting, so 20 people will be in here.
Right, but it could be from all different, various
Absolutely.
departments, and that's
Oh,
why
yeah.
when it was sent out, and I don't know if you saw that.
I just seen the dates. I didn't see where. And I mean, everybody's doing these type of trainings, we're even at work trying to figure out a way to incorporate that. But for us, it's, if you go department by department, then you are going to have to basically shut each section
Which-
down.
which
And-
that's not the-
and that's not.
No, I know, but for it to work logistically for, our type of setting, that's the way that's going to happen. But
Mhm.
it's the world we live in today, unfortunately. And I
Yeah.
think,
And these
I
are, I
don't-
believe, 1.5 to 2 hour sessions.
Oh,
Yeah, they just show 1 hour thing, but I see they're all in August. It's the ones, that's how I was pulling up the schedule.
Yeah. So I mean, they're not,
August 23rd.
if we need to do
24th.
alternate dates, but obviously they'll be closer to elections. They'll be farther from budget, but closer to elections or after elections. I mean,
I think something like that where it's just an hour and a half or so, just a training. It's different when you're talking like a live event type thing.
Right.
and it's half a day or a full
I
day.
think was discussed at a department head meeting that I missed, and someone had thrown out a November date, and it was actually, I wasn't there, but Daryl said, that won't work with elections going on it. So
right.
those are just things we have to consider. No, I totally agree. The training type thing sounds like it might be easier with several dates, and end of August is more likely to work. I can tell you, first through the
23rd.
middle of August will not work, but then here's the other issue is my staff's been engaged nonstop since the beginning of the year. So now people want to take some time off because they've got about a month to take time off before they get ready for general. And so,
Well, maybe we could have some lunch hour trainings, where, at a time where people, if they have some time at lunch, come in and get a piece of pizza or something like that and have some training. That might, but I think this training is very important, especially in today's world, as John was saying. So,
It looks like 23rd and 24th, 17th, or where the dates are right now.
So, the Saturday, I mean, we'd be open to that. Obviously, you're gonna run into overtime and or flex time, and so you're still taking time out of their work week or paying overtime. So, I mean, we're open to those. I don't know how much interest we would get in having people come in for an hour and a half on a Saturday for that.
Maybe that's a topic to bring up at the next department head meeting.
We brought it up at 2 department head.
Well, I'm talking about what may work for actual
There's some
training.
alternate
Right.
days.
well, I think, try these. I mean, see, you may get 90% that are able to fit this in, and it may work just fine,
Yeah.
So since there are more dates and it's spread more through August than was originally proposed,
What's that
it may
require?
work.
Instead of requiring, we just say we recommend that at least the department head show up.
And that's fine. And that's the question that was asked. Do we have to do this? So my assumption is there's some out there that if they don't have to do it, they're not gonna sign up.
What are the hours? Because I kind of like Catherine's idea, it's kind of,
There are a variety of, there's different.
kind of
On
a
the
double
20
thing, if it's in the morning, have some rolls there. If it's lunch, to help entice people to come and, like it or not, a little perk for the employees, show appreciation and, it's important. I think that'd be money well spent, and it helps, just like any meeting you have, just like we say with the legislative meetings, have food, they'll come.
That's right.
We have virtual meetings, like the chamber where we bring in breakfast.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
That's
there-
fine with me.
Right now, there's 10 to 11, 1 to 2, 2 to 3.
Well, the afternoon, you're gonna have cookies and.
Did 10 to 11 have cookies or something?
Sodas or
Yeah.
something.
I think it's money well spent to help get a little
Yeah.
bit more participation.
So that's what, when we schedule different days, different hours, so that, I
We'll
can't
see
ever
what-
come at 10, but
Mhm.
so there's a variety out there. The main question that was asked is it mandatory? I can't
Highly encouraged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Do
like
you,
that.
do you have a feel for how much,
That word's
many
been tossed
more
around
times?
quite a bit over the last 2.5
I haven't
years.
looked for a
I just was
while.
curious,
No, I don't have to do it right now. I can ask Baldwin if I could come back down. after a
just
while.
because that should enter into the idea of trying to worry too much about how much enticement's necessary, because you got 80 to 90%.
You got 96 people signed up already.
There you go.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Out of
Really?
250.
Yeah.
Out of
At least the department heads, I think, should be mandatory, but, because they should all know what to do in case of an emergency, no matter what department they're in.
That one might be a good one to do on the weekend when they don't have to be actively engaged in daily business activities.
Yeah.
What are you calling the training? What's the name of it? Or
Active violence.
active violence training?
So I will, we'll move forward.
I had to find out, wasn't sure what that was. I was supposed to ask you something what that was, because I got notice about signing that.
Sure.
Done that. So we all get signed up.
So I did a interview with K-Man after the storm damage and emphasized and was going to take this opportunity again to emphasize that everybody needs to have their notification pass in place, whether that's cell phone apps, radio, TV, no weather radio that don't rely on outdoor warning sirens to alert you inside of a building. They are outdoor warning sirens. And I just thought I would stress that one more time. The highlights are we went to Randolph Saturday and Elizabeth supplied us a tank sitter. Other than that, myself and John Martin's did the dunk tank duties. We have another opportunity at Leonardville Hullabaloo. So
How's your hand?
he made sure to wave with that.
Yeah,
hand as he
I
went by the
still
parade.
had my club on at that time.
You have plastic sleeves, fire gear that makes it water resistant, right? It could have worked. I'm not buying that as an excuse.
I'll take turns with you.
But guess what? We can't be at the same place at the same time. So there you go. Wait a minute.
I'll sit on the sidelines and watch it.
We can schedule it.
You better bring that with you and take notes.
Just don't discuss county business. You're not gonna be able to. I mean, you're gonna be underwater.
Yeah, you're gonna be separated.
That's the best time to talk about county business because all it is bubbles.
Working on some new trucks as we have listed there. You can see at the end of, scroll down, you can see. At the end are new applications and in process hiring in document. One thing that came up just yesterday was, as you know, we just bought 2 new sets of the Jaws Alive and so our plan to buy some more next year. Though what we just bought cost us just shy of 60,000 for 2 new sets. The Newton Fire Department actually has a used set, almost just like what we bought. They're 5 years old and they want to sell them because they want to be uniform with the other 2 departments around them that have something different. And so they're good. I believe they're still on a warranty. We're going to investigate it a little more, but just to give you a heads up, I may come back next week to get permission to buy 2 used sets for $25,000, which would save us from buying 2 new sets next year at $60,000. So, and with price increases, they'll probably be more.
Yeah.
As we know on things like that. So I think it's an opportunity that we'll do just a little bit more research on, but very likely we'll come back next week and ask permission to make that purchase. So just to give you a little heads up. Then of course you have the weather report in front of you.
What happened in Ogden?
They had a trailer fire.
A lot of medical calls.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I think a lot of those were medical calls.
There's not that big a difference between them.
Right. They're our busiest or second busiest station, typically. With the heat and different, the storm calls and the heat and all that kind of stuff. They had a lot of electrical lines down, a lot of, power line down for the storms,
Oh, yeah.
tree on a power line type of calls, and ramped up on medical calls. So I think that's the biggest factors there.
Speaking of the Ogden station, I was driving 2 last night. I don't know who was out there mowing, but that was a little concerning to watch, especially on that hill around the lagoon. But they looked at a pretty good angle there. I was a little worried.
Unless the commission has any questions, I think that's all I have.
I'm good.
And I will send out a reminder on that training, those training dates. Get more interest signed up.
We do set like some kind of internal thing, maybe Vivian, if somebody can send out,
Oh, yeah.
put a little
Work with
stress
Vivian on
it a little bit.
Elizabeth, and,
Yeah.
You might think about refreshments to help entice in the next email, so. It helps participation.
Yep. Will do. Thanks.
Time for Mr. Bowler, commissioners.
And again, thanks for the appraiser's office for
Great.
disaster assessments.
Your report is just down below there, Mike.
Looks like we're running just a little bit behind, but let's see if I can catch us up. Mike Bowler with the Riley County Noxious Weed Staff Update. Suffice it to say, this last month has been a bit of a whirlwind out there at our facility. We're working.
Is that a pun?
Yeah. Pun intended. We're working through some challenges out there. We'll be highlighting a few challenges here in my update this morning, trying to get the word out on a few different things that are going to be changed because of the damage we have sustained. I would like to start with saying we are almost done with spraying all the musk thistle and bindweed on the county roads and with our bare ground work. This spring has just been one of the worst. If you look on a calendar and try to find 20 spray days since early March with wind under 10 miles an hour, ground not saturated with water or not raining, it's just been terrible. So we are very far behind with spraying, but we're working on catching up. This year, we did have 7 townships, which is well over double what we had the year prior. A lot of that, I believe, had to do with cost share chemicals. We had some left over from last year, and I encouraged townships to sign on this year, and they did respond to that. So we have a lot more townships. We've got almost all of them solid spray, with the exception of Bala. And yesterday we were out a little bit, but again, it was raining yesterday morning, and then the ground was wet again this morning. So we're working on catching up on the spraying. Our KDOT contract, we did not get any work done for KDOT before July 1st. That is rare. Usually we like to get out and get some spraying done. We just haven't had time this year. And now I'm waiting for KDOT as their fiscal year starts over in July, and waiting for just if it's going to be something that they're going to budget for a contract. Generally they are, but I like to have a number beforehand before we start spraying and end up spraying beyond their budget. So hopefully here soon we'll hear back from KDOT, and we'll start getting some KDOT property sprayed as well. We are just in the process of completing our first round of mowing. We've got all the dirt and paved roads in the county mowed out the first half. Unfortunately, with the collapse of the building, we did take out 2 of our mowers, our tractors, and then we had a third that had a major mechanical failure, of course, during the same time. So we are down 3 of our 5 tractors, which puts us considerably behind the 8 ball as far as mowing is concerned. And for that reason, the second round, we are going to focus on paved roads in the county. If there are some gravel roads that do get a little out of hand, become maybe a safety issue, we'll certainly monitor that and get out there. But the second round, we just don't have the tractors available right now, and we need to focus on the well-traveled roads, the paved roads. So if you have any questions about that, commissioners, if you get any calls or concerns about gravel roads, we will get to it the third round. And I am making some arrangements and getting some tractors repaired back online as soon as we can. But for now, we have to look at ways to, focus on what's most important. And right now, it's going to be paved roads. So we'll highlight that.
When your track, are they repaired, or do you have to get new ones? The ones that got.
Well, sir, the problem is
This one.
supply issues,
Either
and
way,
ability to get them
problem.
in. Unfortunately, I haven't yet even met with the adjusters. There's been some delays there as well, but aside from that, I went ahead and got estimates. We're working on getting parts ordered, but it's a little bit of a balancing act. If the adjusters feel
That's what I
that
was
something
wondering.
doesn't need repaired and I've ordered a $4,000 part, it can create some issues. But we're working through that. I think we'll be able to get some things online fairly quickly. And I am working with Can-Equip over in Omega about possibly leasing some items. They've stepped up for us, and I'm working on getting at least one tractor back online here fairly quickly. So this last couple of weeks, I've just been a tractor repair and body estimate person. I've been a weed director, and so we're working diligently to get stuff back online. But unfortunately, these things are going to take time.
Oh, yeah.
We had a building to protect our equipment. In one fell swoop, it took out most of our equipment.
Right.
So we're working through that. We do have cost share chemical and sprayers available for owners, private property owners. Unfortunately, this year with the weather, I have seen an uptick in noxious weeds on private property. In their defense, we have had just a horrible spring to be spraying. Unfortunately, we've got to get some of these things dealt with. There's some fields that are musk thistle that are going to seed that are going to create problems for us next year. Unfortunately, the problem is already beyond really spraying. It's something that I'll have to be diligent next early spring. Hopefully, we'll have the weather to deal with worth it. But I just want to put out there that you have chemicals still available, and for private property owners to come in and please help out, take care of the ground. On the HHW side, this is very important. I've been working on getting the message out on this. Normally, we do a collection at Howie's the second Saturday of the month. That is very popular, and that was scheduled for this weekend, Saturday, July 9th. Unfortunately, our HHW trailer was fairly heavily damaged in the storm. Yeah, and so we have the opportunity to have that fixed. We need to get it fixed, as that is a piece of equipment we use for elections. And so I chose to forego the clean out this weekend in lieu of getting it repaired. We have put that out on our website. We have put a message in the Mercury. I'm hoping perhaps maybe Kingman might pick it up as well, just to get the word out that we won't be down there this weekend. Having said that, I will have a crew out at the shop from 8 to noon this Saturday. And then we'll have the recycle room open as well. Now, generally, folks like it down there because they don't have to travel as much, but as an alternative, it's not the best, but we will be open from 8 to noon this Saturday, but we will not be down at Howie's. But this will be temporary. Hopefully this is a 1 month deal, and we will be back out at Howie's on August 13th. And that's very popular, and it's not that we're going to stop it. We just unfortunately for 1 month here have to stand down. The Raleigh County facility does have latex paint to give away. It's still been very popular. We still have some out there right now, but we're running pretty low. And then as always, although the HHW and Howie's will be closed this Saturday, we do have carts out at our shop 24/7. 2 great carts out underneath the awning. And so citizens at any time can drop off items out there at their convenience. And that is something that we changed after COVID and will continue to stay because feedback on that has been very positive, that they have the opportunity to not have to come out there during business hours to drop that material off.
I'll second that. I use that frequently. You know, with working the hours that you're open, it's nice on the weekends or before or after work.
Yes,
Really, very nice.
it's been really easy. And some folks did it regardless anyway, but now we've got carts out there. So it's better. If people have been respectful, we haven't had business waste dropped off out after hours. Because when you charge for some business waste, folks have been respectful of that. Feedback's been positive, so thanks, Rich. I'm glad that you.
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I've used one of them back in the corner of a shed that I hadn't, cabinet hadn't worked in the house, that found some more stuff that the previous owners left me. I'm going to make another run out there sometime.
So we're just working through the damage. Local businesses have really stepped up for us and pushing us towards the headline on some of the things to get repaired. So I'm very grateful for that. And we're in the process of just getting stuff fixed, but there are some hiccups along the line when you have equipment taken out like that. But I'm confident we'll be fully back up here running real soon because of the businesses that are helping us out. So grateful to them.
Because you said you sprayed for the musk thistle and bindweed. Is there something that just kills those, or is? Because I thought Roundup was about the only thing
They're considered a broadleaf, and so we use 2,4-D, and it's a very common herbicide. It's
Yeah.
been around forever. And
That's why I just want
2,4-D
to
is
spray something that doesn't kill the grass.
Yeah, it's a selective herbicide, and so that it will attack the broadleaf and not the native grasses, and that's what we use alongside the roadways and that sort of thing. Keep in mind, bindweed and musk thistle are tough.
What?
That's why they're a noxious weed. And so I do have a lot of people come in year to year and say, well, I sprayed for this and it came back next year. And this is a marathon, not a race. And so we do have effective chemicals, but it's something that you have to stay up on. It's not a spray one and done. But yes, we have chemicals that specifically target.
Just do that. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know 2,4.
Yeah.
Didn't know how to do bindweed. I thought
Bindweed
Wow.
is one of those
I've got
plants.
some patch and I've been.
It has a
Just keep
30-foot
it
root
running.
system on it. It reproduces by rhizomes and seed can live in the ground for up to 50 years. We often talk about after, you know, a nuclear bomb would go off, we'll have cockroaches and I will add bindweed to that list. It's just, we have to try to control it, but you won't just spray it once. You've got to stay on it. So yeah, I can understand you fighting a patch over and over again, but keep up the fight. I feel your
Well, I
pain.
started working on the other side of the fence in the neighbor's yard too, because they don't care, but.
Yeah, you got to keep it knocked back. And our goal is always to try to keep bindweed to affect yields in ag ground. Some city of Manhattan around, you know, the jogging paths and stuff, there's bindweed pretty prolific. And we're working with the city, but my goal is really to keep it away from ag ground. That's really where we're at, because you're not ever going to get rid of bindweed. Just not going to.
Another weed that's not noxious but should be and rather abundant this year. What's the best thing for poison ivy?
I thought you were going to say poison hemlock. Poison hemlock has been pretty.
Poison
popular
ivy
this
is
year.
just tremendous crop this year.
Yeah, it's more of a vine, it's more viney, and I would have to look specifically, Rich, of what would be a good mixture for that. I'm leaning more towards a like a pasture guard or something that would attack more of a woody viney. But off my head, I'm not really sure what we would specifically use for poison ivy. Obviously, poison ivy is a native plant. It's something that we don't target, and as you pointed out, it's not a noxious weed. It's inconvenient, but it's a native plant.
And it doesn't really impact grasslands and croplands.
It does not. It is not as prolific and as aggressive and won't affect yields. I do get calls from time to time about, well, why don't you guys spray for poison ivy? It's not a state recognized noxious weed. And there's a reason for that. It's not near as, it's inconvenient. You can get a rash off of it, obviously, that sort of thing. But it's nothing that's going to affect the yield of a silly wheat field. And it's native, and so that's something that we just don't target.
And it doesn't spread like musk thistle and vine.
Right, musk thistle and Sericea lespedeza, it's time to start spraying for that. And that will turn an entire pasture into a monoculture. It's allelopathic, it will kill other plants around it, and it will devastate the pasture. And that's the type of plant we need to focus on. So poison ivy in the ditch is.
It's just noxious. It's just noxious to us. Not to
Yeah. If you give in it, you might.
Obnoxious to us.
Okay.
Yeah, you might make a strong argument but it's certainly inconvenient.
Yeah.
It's not going to affect our food production.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. And first commissioners. Morning, Anna.
Morning. Alright, so with Ann Burson at Fraser's office, we're currently on our personal property. We're working through the quality control of the notice of values that went out. We're scanning all the 2022 files. New properties being added for 2023 at this point. The annual review of the vacant land has begun. And now that certification is completed, we are getting back out to the field to verify the ag use and reviewing ag land sales, which we are seeing an increase in this year. We've started interviews this week for the personal property appraiser 1 position in hopes of having that position filled soon. On the residential side, the staff's currently verifying sales and doing the annual review. The new laser measuring tools were delivered last week, so we're really excited to have all of the staff utilizing that new tool and hopefully increasing the speed in the field, limiting the time on properties. Following the June 11th high wind tornado event, we did assist emergency management with the damage assessment. Since then, we've met with emergency management regarding the process and are working on a basic plan to ensure all responding are prepared in the future. In case of a larger event, we just want to make sure all parties are on the same page. The results of the 2 residential small claims that were held in May have come in regarding our 2022 values, and the county values were upheld. There's no outstanding small claims or photo appeals for the residential side. As of June 30th this year, we had 742 sales, of which 634 residential properties, and that's an increase of 170 residential property sales since the last time I updated you guys. The total permits for 2022 are 163. The county median ratio is currently sitting at 89%. And the median sale price is $207,750. While it's very early, if the sale trend continues, it's likely that property values would see an increase for 2023. Regarding just the residential sales, I mean, they're coming fast. It is occupying quite a bit of time. And so we're just looking at all of our options to try to, sales is really where there needs to be a lot of focus. Sales are used to set market value. And so trying to speed up the annual review process and utilize any tools that we can to make that happen so our focus can be on the sales. On the commercial side, we had 2 scheduled small claims with AJ's Pizzeria and Icon Investments. Both were scheduled for last week. AJ's Pizzeria was continued during the phone call. The hearing officer granted a continuance to them. As of yesterday afternoon, we received notification that's been rescheduled for July 22nd at 9 a.m. Icon Investments was heard, and we are now just waiting for the results from that appeal. I have included a spreadsheet of the commercial BOCC appeals that are docketed and waiting to be scheduled. So I'm trying to scroll to that really quickly so you guys can see that. This is the sheet that I presented you guys before. Now, just to kind of explain this a little bit, right now there are 27 different properties, different property numbers that are appealing multiple tax years. It's actually 23, I believe is what I had submitted. So 27 different reference numbers, but actually 23 properties. So one property owner can own the parking lot and the Walgreens locations and whatnot. So in essence, there's actually only 23 different properties appealing, but total of 65 appeals docketed for BOCC. And that's because there are multiple years involved. I included an additional kind of a breakdown, just so you guys could see by the property name, what years are being appealed. And so there are a total of 27 different represented, but like on your Walgreens, there's parking lot associated with it. Similarly, your country, the Colonial Gardens has some vacant lots as well as the office and the mobile home park. And so sometimes there's multiple properties involved in a single appeal. Dark store, as I'm sure most of you are aware, the Johnson County Supreme Court case decision was sent out on Friday. I had a meeting scheduled with Clancy on Wednesday. We did have to postpone it to this afternoon. We are going to be working through the court's decision and its potential impact on Riley County. As Clancy and I spoke last week and released to the media, it is a step in the right direction. It's only one part of dark store theory argument. Overall summary of other work, we wrapped up and presented the 2023 budget. As of our meeting last week, I am looking at if there's a possibility for alternative vehicle options due to the substantial increase in vehicle costs for both new and used vehicles. The original state contract pricing is no longer available, and it was a 43% increase in cost from the original CIP that Greg had presented and was approved in November 2021. I did send in the mileage and condition of all of the vehicles in our fleet to Mr. Reddy last week. And I wanted just to kind of clarify on our fleet. Like I said, we are working through. The idea behind it was replacing the weakest link in the fleet. We do have an SUV that is a 4x4. To replace a 4x4, it would cost us far greater. We have to have that 4x4 due to some of the conditions in the roads that we do drive on and the properties that we have to drive down unmanned or unmanaged long paths. And so that will be for a later presentation as I gather more information. I am working to speak with John Ellerman. He's going to kind of assist me since he does a lot of vehicle purchasing in the process. I started analyzing our market models and our appraisal process in Riley County in general. I have reached out to PVD and I've had conversations with other appraisers, as every county does things a little differently. I just want to ensure that we are remaining compliant and establishing values as fairly and equitably as possible. Have any questions, comments, concerns regarding?
After the discussion last week about the car, saying, well, maybe used ones, we got an ad in the paper or ad in the mail. I think it's from someplace out Play Center. And I never pay attention. So I actually looked through them and I went, good grief, the used, even a car 3 or 4 years old,
Yes, sir.
it costs more than a new car should cost. I thought.
And that is the unfortunate reality of
Yeah.
vehicles right now. And with the fleet that we do have, the reliability for some of those trips, and Rich spoke last week on it. I didn't realize how much vehicle sharing we do. We do share vehicles at times, all 5 vehicles, we have 5 vehicles checked out at once in the vehicle sharing process. And so I have to look at what options we have available. That would be benefit not just our office, but the county as a whole. And that's part of, I think, where Greg's thinking was on the Chevy Traverse, because of the number of occupants you could fit. It would be beneficial for multiple departments to have that type of resource available. And so, but again, I can present that at a later time as I have more information.
Well, like I said, I never paid attention. So I
Yeah.
thought, oh, let's look at this one. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Actually thinking about selling mine, but the problem is I don't
Then you
know.
gotta buy
I
something
don't know
else.
what I'm gonna
Yeah.
get myself into, because I've got quite a bit of equity built up into it, and I think I could sell it for a little bit more and roll back. Yeah, there's nothing to get into that's not equally or more expensive, so I don't.
Exactly, yeah.
Any questions? Thank you for your
All right.
time.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Anna. Have a good day.
You too.
Next question really is at 9:55.
Anna, I did have.
Refill.
Always with the payment protest portion. I mean, I believe our office that are in those that benefit part, so the treasurer is the next set. Yeah. Yeah. So
And he
once,
hasn't asked us.
yeah, once we finalize.
No, don't come up here.
Do, then it will be sent, if they still get back taxes on the years.
Yeah, I think that's.
Then.
Because we think we got it last week.
Oh, okay, okay, so you haven't received one for that one.
Not that I-
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can double check
That's fine.
upstairs. Like, I'm pretty sure those, all of it, I mean, that particular stuff was already addressed and sent on. But I can check into it.
No, that's not like.
That's fine, yeah, I'm not sure. And I'm not sure if, depending on the year, I would assume there might have been a refund too, but I can't speak to that again without double checking it. Well,
Okay.
yeah, if you have any questions, just reach out. Thank you.
Well.
I said we got 3/4 of an inch of rain.
No.
And a half.
Yeah. Oh, we can get it.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning, how you doing?
I
Morning.
want to interrupt if it was going on, but I want to say good morning.
Okay, good morning to you. Baldwin Fisher, emergency management. The emergency
Okay,
management.
look good.
Ladies, how you doing?
Morning. I'd be such a better typer if I just knew how to spell. Might make a pretty decent secretary, but no.
Yeah. Sorry. Right. Yeah. I know. Probably for a while.
Oh, yeah. I need to make a motion that recess as the Board of County Commission and then reconvene as the Board of County Health.
I'll second that and move seconded recess of the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Board of Health. All in favor?
Aye.
Right, good morning.
Morning.
I'm here with Caitlin Smith, our WIC supervisor. We're here with the fiscal year 2023 budget approval for WIC. As you know, Kansas WIC program receives funds from USDA. And every year we come to you with this budget to ask for approval to move forward. So a little bit of background information there. And then this narrative hasn't changed much since last year. This does include all costs estimated to administer the WIC and the breastfeeding peer counseling program during the fiscal year 2023 at all 3 of our sites, Manhattan, Wamego, and Fort Riley. They do require, the state does require 1/6 or 16.7% of the total allocation to be spent on nutrition education, and also specified amount must be spent on breastfeeding promotion and support activities. The proposed budget for this upcoming year, which runs September 1 through October 30th, no, October 1 through September 30th, sorry. For the WIC and breastfeeding peer counseling services is $991,212. And then some more background information there about how this helps economically and also how it helps with the health of our WIC clients. Any questions on the budget?
Actually, I do. How is the breakdown of that between both counties? Is it a formula? Is it population? And
As far as like how the money's
Mhm,
allocated.
yeah.
I mean, it's allocated to just our agency together. We have 4 staff at the Fort Riley Clinic. Most of our budget is for salary. And then for just expenses and kind of overhead costs, it's not too much and it's pretty evenly split.
Go ahead.
So is it Fort Riley in Riley County or Fort Riley and Riley and?
It's at Irwin Army Hospital, at the hospital.
Okay, and then on the
Services are.
Pot County, I mean, Wamego goes well into Pot County, so why do we provide that service instead of Pot County?
So some of the smaller counties, they will be, they'll have a parent agency. So Riley County has covered Pot County for probably 20, 30 years. Wabunsee County is covered by Shawnee County. So probably just staffing and ability to offer full services. And we only do a Pot County clinic twice a month. So there's not a need to be there full time.
And on Fort Riley, is it just Riley County military personnel? I don't know how to phrase it properly. I'm just,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Service center.
Oh, I'm sure it's
Yeah,
all.
service members, anybody who
Okay.
can
It's all
access
service
Okay,
those
I-
can go there.
okay. That's all I had.
But really, the whole program is funded through the grant, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's nothing ad valorem. I was just curious the breakdown because it kind of
Sure.
Yeah.
spreads out technically over 3 different agency or 3 different organizations. I was just curious how it kind of broke down, but I get that most of it's for personnel. That's the case with everything. So nothing
Most of
new.
us departments are that
Yeah,
way.
nothing new there. So, okay. I didn't know if anybody else has anything. Okay. I'm trying to get back to my original screen here, so I apologize. Yeah, just a second here. Okay. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the Kansas WIC local agency budget for fiscal year 2023 to continue WIC services in the Riley County, Fort Riley, and Potawatomi County sectors.
I would second that.
And moved and seconded to approve the Kansas WIC budget for fiscal year 2023. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
ladies. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, you too.
One more motion.
Yeah, we'll make a motion that we recess as the Board of County Health and reconvene as the Board of County Commission.
I would second that.
And moved and seconded to recess as the Board of Health and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Commissioners, actually, it's time for
Yeah.
Amanda.
Good morning, commissioners. Amanda Webb, planning director. We're here with our planning development's June staff report. Just going to hit a few highlights as I do, and then of course we're happy to answer questions. One of the first things I went on K-Man in Focus last month to talk about our battery recycling educational program. Been working on that for a little while now. We have our stickers and flyers that we've been distributing. We have a lot more that we can distribute. And we're still just in the very last few weeks of the solid waste grant from KDHE. So we're hoping to have kind of one last push, spend a few more of those dollars if we can. And you know, of course, the program is going to continue after the close of the grant period, but we'll keep that going. But we've got some good use out of those funds that we received, and just going to keep spreading that word about battery recycling. So let's see. Of course, we talked a lot about. I think it was just a couple weeks ago, the comprehensive plan update that we are kicking off, and I appreciate the direction you folks provided on horizon years, stakeholders, all of that. Again, just wanted to repeat that, you know, any questions or thoughts you have on that as we're getting off the ground, please just let me know. I'm gonna be looking at trying to get some stakeholders at least engaged, or at least kind of on board, if you will, over the next several months, just so they're aware of, you know, what we're gonna be doing, what we're gonna be working on, and kind of figure out how exactly we want their role to play out. And then also kicking off the public outreach, public engagement, all of that, we work on the website, all that different sort of stuff to kind of lay some of the background, continue laying the background this year so we can really get kicked off for next year. Let's see. And so our contract environmental health specialist has been working with us a couple of days a week for the past several weeks. She's been getting a lot done out in the field. Harry Piper is back in the office with us effective yesterday.
Good,
So he is able to, again, be in the office and do that. So I know we are happy that he is back. I know he is happy to be back as well. But she will be, of course, continuing field work as he's unable to do that. But all of that's going well. We're getting things moving along, and our numbers are starting to increase again. It'll take a little bit of time, of course, getting everything coordinated and going, but we're moving along, getting people what they need. So when those services going. I guess last thing I want to point out, I know Gary Fike with the Rural Economic Development Advisory Board, he sent around a webinar announcement to the group that I am planning on attending on, I believe it's Monday. It's Federal Reserve's webinar on rural entrepreneurship. So I'm just gonna check that out and see what we can learn from that. So
Good.
So that's I guess the summary of my report here. Is there any questions or comments or anything I can find out from you folks?
The started the short-term lease or
Short-term
licensing,
rentals?
short-term rental
Yes.
licensing. Is that, how's that? Are we getting responses from them?
We have, I believe, just one application so far. We do expect them to kind of trickle in as we get started. You know, we have to just still keep talking about it. I know we issued a press release and have, you know, really tried to talk a lot about it. We do need to get some information out, a little bit more information pushed out to the public, just to make sure people see it and are aware that, yeah, you need a license now if you're operating one of these out in the
It's
county.
basically we had the whole year to get.
Right,
and
yes.
that's-
Right, so what we're allowing folks to do, of course, we still want them to apply, but we would give them that year, you know, to get, you know, if especially if it's an existing structure that maybe isn't gonna quite meet some of the criteria, like the parking or window size. Actually had a gentleman call several weeks ago. He wants to do a short-term rental, but the window is a little small, so he was verifying, okay, what size do I need? I'm gonna do this, so, which is good. I'm glad people are being proactive. And so, yeah, we're gonna give folks that year, you know, just to, you know, give them a little time to, you know, get their structures up to regulations, so, yeah.
Because did you, I mean, you had an idea of how many, or where they all were?
Um,
I mean, you had some, if you don't hear from them, or we can try to contact some of them.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a rough idea, if you will. We think
Right,
at
yeah,
this
I know.
point, there's probably maybe a couple dozen, there's probably more. That we haven't really, been able to find. I know Darren, our planning compliance specialist, he's, obviously looked on, with Airbnb, the Verbo, the more popular sites to, see what we can find. I know, and I think we've been able to find, some specific ones. I know a lot of times on those sites, you don't get the exact location until you book. So which, not sure we can book everyone. But,
Yeah.
so we're working on that. So yeah, definitely want to make sure people are aware and we get them licensed. So.
Good.
So we definitely think it's going to be a bit of a process. before
Yeah,
we-
that's what I was just wondering how it's getting going.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So. Any other questions? Okay, so I actually have a question for you folks. So we provide you this nice spreadsheet here with lots of information, and I know it can be a little much. We like to obviously provide as much information as possible, and then it gets a little bit small on your screens there. And I've been thinking about, maybe revamping a little bit, doing a little something different. And I just kind of wanted, maybe anybody's thoughts, if you have any, or if you think of any, a little down the line, even if you can't think of anything now, of what you want to see. If there's a certain thing, yeah, I don't really need this, but I'd like to see this, or this is great information, please keep doing that, or can we try it in this format? So really, I want to make this useful for you folks. So, so I thought I would ask that question if you have any thoughts about what you'd like to see and how you'd like to see it, basically.
I'm good with it. I think you condense it down from where it used to be, but then again, you've also finished a lot of other things, so that's probably part of it too. But no, I like to say what we're still working on or what we're in the midst of working on, and then what we've already completed to a certain extent. So.
Yeah, definitely happy to provide the information. Just want to make sure it's useful for you folks. And again, if there's something else you want to see that we're not including, or again, a different format or anything like that, I'm happy to do that.
No, anything.
Well, like always, if you think of anything, please let me know. Any questions, I'm available.
Good.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Amanda.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you. Thanks.
Next, Commissioner, yeah, Clancy Holman at 10:15.
Yes.
I couldn't get it to download online.
Oh, okay. You want paper copy?
Yeah. I emailed Zach. Send it to me.
I'll get you.
Am I taking somebody else's?
No. I'll get one too.
Okay.
If I can do it during this meeting.
Well, yeah. We bring he said.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. How does that?
Rich, do you have a time you're available for that Zoom with Mary Carson on Monday?
Yeah, as I said, Monday, all
Any-
afternoon looks good.
Anytime?
Mhm.
Okay.
I don't
Yep.
know what legalities there are where we have to maintain.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was that.
Yeah. Please. Yeah.
About 3 to 4. Is that okay?
I don't know. Yeah, I believe. It's a township maintains it. Is that county road? Well, that's just good. I think part of what we're doing is because it wasn't.
Well, this, yeah, some of it's in the tunnel. But
Yeah, a lot of that's the core. That's been the problem. That's the core property, a lot of it.
Why were we trying to form a benefit district to improve it? If it's county right away,
If it isn't,
if it is.
or if it is, I'm not aware of it.
Paving
Anyone trying to
district?
make that a benefit
A
district.
paving district?
No, just to
That White Canyon.
Who's trying to make that a benefit district?
No, we talked about it last
main
year.
road.
No.
They want to maintain and improve, not to pave it, but just.
You know, they've been there a couple times, that main road.
I think Greg, we were working on to bring it up to that standard. But now he's saying the township won't maintain as if it is.
Well, the people that have been asking about this have gotten all the information. They've gotten the cost estimate, they've got the whole thing.
Yeah, but they're getting a different story. I got a call, there's a new owner out there. And he said he's talked to.
He's talked to Craig and Craig,
And told him, you know, this is the price. And they, because we were told at the time, last year, they said, because the township wouldn't maintain it because it wasn't up to their standards. If we redid it to their standards, then they'd be maintaining it. And now the township's saying, oh, you're gonna fix it up. We're not gonna maintain it. And they're saying, well, why spend all that money? It's not gonna be maintained. And I don't know. Is there a rule that township has to maintain?
no,
the
they
road?
have to, no,
Yeah, that's just it. They're their own governing board,
Yeah.
so.
yeah. That's, if it's something they have discretion to do, then you have no means to make
they
the
can do as-
township do
They
that,
can
as
do as much or little as they want.
long as they're acting under their authority. Their powers.
So the townships don't have to maintain any of their roads.
No, their roads. They
Well,
have to maintain their township roads. They do, but you cannot force them to do anything with regard to those roads. The only way that would change is if there's some kind of real safety issue.
Yeah, we have no legal
Or-
authority over them.
Or the other option is you can do away with the township model.
That's the only way you get around that, Craig. They are elected officials
Yeah.
with their own authority.
So even if, because like I say, last year they took, someone had talked to them and said, yeah, if it was brought up to standards, then the township would take over maintenance.
Well, there's been all kinds of discussions over this.
Yeah.
So I can't really tell you that that wasn't ever said, but
Well, that was, I mean, that was what we were told
And-
last year.
And even if
right.
they said it,
even
if they
if
choose
somebody from
not
Texas
to,
said that it still takes action, formal action by the board, by that board to do something.
So it's just
like
they'd
this
have
board.
to, they'd have to accept that road.
They
And
would,
if they don't, then they don't,
if it's not a township road, if there's gonna be a transfer or something, they would have to take action to accept it.
Well, but even if they accept it, it's up to them at what level they maintain it.
Right.
And for how long?
That's the biggest common problem. I live on the township is the inequities between the level of township roads between the various townships and definitely between the standard counties. Is that
Yep, they have to make
it is time, commissioners, for Mr. Holmes.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Clancy Holman, Riley County Council. I just want to here primarily this morning to ask permission to close the county councilor's office tomorrow, tomorrow on Friday from 8 a.m. and probably until noon or just after the tax sale. And it's going to be held down at Public Works that morning. And we'll begin at 10. We expect it to be over by noon, but we can't guarantee that. We never do. But it'll probably go pretty quickly. There's only 30 properties involved in this one. And I do want to just make the formal request that it's okay with the board to close the office. I'll be down there with you as well.
What time is it?
The tax sale itself is.
No, I just mean what time you want to close.
We close at 8, close from 8 o'clock until noon or until we get back from the tax sale that day. I know it won't go beyond Friday. And it won't last till 5.
So all 4 of you will be down there?
Mhm.
Okay.
Absolutely. The both our administrative support staff will be necessary for that. Craig, of course, will be necessary for that.
Mhm.
And then I'm their kind of backup and then to kind of do things so they can do their job. So, including acting as doorman. Down there.
I was wondering what your purpose actually was there. Okay.
It's a little above my pay grade, but I'll do it.
Counselor, is that what you-
Yeah, basically
Oh,
checking,
no.
checking
No.
IDs.
No, luckily, we have RCPD there as the auctioneer. So. I just want to get your okay at that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. We gotta
Yeah.
get that, we gotta get that done and taken
Sounds
care of. Yeah.
All right. That's all I have unless you have questions.
Yeah, early thoughts on this dark store case that came in Johnson County, just from a
Yeah, sure.
primitive legal side at this point in time.
I'll give you a privilege. Yeah, it's a good decision. I mean, it's the great thing is it relies very heavily on a dissent in the Court of Appeals that we have thought for a long time was a great analysis because that dissent by a judge, Court of Appeals Judge Levin, before this ever got to the Supreme Court, was the dissenting voice in this case at the Court of Appeals level. And he did, I think, a fantastic job of describing how, to my way of thinking, flimsy the support is for the use of that Creed decision. And that's why you'll see in that decision so much of his decision is cited by the state Supreme Court. And it's not always that you get a dissent used as part of the higher court's rationale.
Yeah.
It happens from time to time, but it just indicates that that court also, the majority of that court also thought it was a well-reasoned opinion.
I remember you had said that the dissent opinion you thought was made more sense than the.
Yeah, and I'm not an objective observer.
Right, I understand, yeah.
But it just was, you can recognize, it's not hard for anybody to recognize the way good writing, when it's really good writing, because it doesn't require any kind of special knowledge or anything. So read it and say, okay, that follows. And he did a great job, as I said, in his dissent, and then the majority opinion was very clear in what it was doing. It didn't just reverse it and send it back. It reversed the Court of Appeals, sent it back to the Board of Tax Appeals with instructions to consider the county's evidence, which they were not allowed to present. The county was not allowed to present evidence that could have turned the decision the other way. Doesn't guarantee it's going to happen, but it makes it clear that in the future, at least, even in the worst case scenario, if this will reaffirm, if voted, made the same decision, and then if an appeal were appropriate, if it were, analyzing what the reasoning is, it would still go back through the same path it took again, which might happen if it's actually It could be an appeal if there's from the other side, if there's a result by voted that's different from what it had before in favor of the tax authority.
So why a vote is supposed to be objective, would they not allow a county to provide their evidence?
Well, that's a good question. And one reason that's good, it's key that they reversed that previous decision because VOTA had been taking the tack and they were using the reasoning that they were bound by that decision. That certain evidence involving build to suit leases commercial leases could not be used to indicate to help derive at the fair market value of property. They said it simply excluded it. And VOTA is, while they're the expert agency on this matter, and there's supposed to be some deference to it for any state agency that has special expertise, they're not. They felt they were bound by the principle of stare decisis, which just means that you're bound by a lower courts and lower agencies are bound by controlling authority by a court of record. So it's the idea is that you don't have just decisions entirely facts-based, aren't based on the law, and don't follow decisions that are controlling. And VOTA, while it's a court, it still has to follow appellate decisions that are controlling. And this decision in this most recent case wipes out that decision, says it can't be used the way VOTA was using it. VOTA was using it to say not only are we bound by it, but we're going to follow PREB, and under PREB, we're not going to let you reduce this evidence.
But we're going to take a hypothetical approach that obviously doesn't define fair market value at all over it.
Well, that's always been our position from the very beginning. Is this dark store. One of the primary problems of it, I always think of it still, is it's bad comparables. That's what it results in. You're not allowed to present evidence of build to suit leases on similar properties to determine what their value is now, rather than an ongoing business being allowed to say, well, it's really a vacant building. That's how it ought to be valued, because no one else can use it but us. So, yeah, but you're going to use it for the next 30 years, maybe longer. And so it has market value right now.
The PREB decision that they're referring to, was that
It was a lower court. It was a court of appeals.
Was that
A previous-
2010 or 2012?
I don't know what the year was. It's some
been-
time ago.
yeah, it's been a
fairly
while.
old
that
decision.
case had never been appealed through to the
I
Supreme
don't know
Court?
that I don't think they did, but I don't know. Part of that is, I'd have to check. It's a good question. There's no right to an appeal to the Kansas Supreme Court. This would be except in certain specialized cases that don't apply here in a civil case. You have to get the Kansas Supreme Court's permission, much like the United States Supreme Court. You have to convince them that there's a reason why they should take it. Years ago, the rate that they would take things would be maybe 10% of those petitions which you file. And if you lose in the Court of Appeals in your view, you want to appeal to the Supreme Court, you file a petition for review asking the Supreme Court to take it. Routinely, they used to take about 10%. So there's no guarantee that it could have been appealed. If it was, it certainly didn't work because the authority that was being used was that. But I'll check into that.
But they're
I'll
just
see if they
saying
even
that
filed.
the Supreme Court now said that decision doesn't govern what you're doing.
Nope, it says VOTA cannot, their
Cannot
specific
construct
instructions are in this case. Okay, in this case, they didn't issue a general prohibition because it really wouldn't have been enforceable until somebody tried to violate what they decided in this case. They're saying you can't use PREB VOTA, you can't use PREB to exclude evidence of build to suit leases when you're trying to, if they're offered by the county, you have to hear that and then evaluate the credibility. Do you believe the value that the county is proposing, or do you believe the value that the taxpayer is proposing? In this case, we simply, a significant portion of our evidence never got in.
I think it would be interesting to see VOTA's attitude and then the end result, getting this thrown back to them, if it changes.
Cautiously optimistic. How's that sound?
Might as well.
I don't know that I am.
I don't know.
Well,
I
that's
know.
true. That's true. But might as well enjoy the good result.
Yeah.
It's out there and it could be used in subsequent cases.
Well, you said,
I think the interesting thing about this particular case, because all the cases are different, but you know, subjectively speaking, if they're saying that they undermine that entire chain of Walmarts in Johnson County, and there's a lot of Walmarts in Johnson County, and that by 50%, how in the world along the way would PVD gotten involved in that? Because that alone would have substantially lowered their rate and scale on there, where they would have to get in, because you're talking about like $112 million. I mean, that's not short change in terms of the entire big picture, but
Yeah.
they would have had to have gotten involved because their commercial rate that they're supposed to adhere to would have fallen below that with that just alone.
No, their commercial compliance rate would have been above the 100% because
Okay.
they're saying the valuation is too high. So when our appraiser gets value, it's supposed to be at 192 or whatever percent. They would have put them like 110, 105.
But that would have been enough of a red flag that PVD would have had to get involved somewhere along
You
the
would
way
think.
in the last 10 years, correct?
Maybe. I mean, it's still gonna be the agency would have to make that call. And, you know, routinely, one of their options is to take over that appraiser's office.
Right.
That's not a routine remedy, but it's one of their powers, and that's how far they extend. But one of our arguments from the very beginning, and it hasn't had traction yet, as far as I can tell, is if you, the legislature, for example, if you, the legislature, believe this is really not a problem worth addressing, and that really what you're hearing from what generates these continual amendments to the appraisal system, to the mass appraisal system that are adverse to counties, and you justify this on their values are wildly out of whack, but you have evidence from your own agency that shows everybody's in compliance. And if we're in compliance with your rules, how can there be any kind of a problem here?
Right.
There isn't one.
Right.
What
And
you
I didn't
have,
eloquently say
Exactly.
that, but that's
If
it. That's
that
what I
was
was trying
the
to get
problem, then
to.
those counties' compliance rate should have been above 100%.
way above. It should be a statewide problem that they should have addressed to avoid a constitutional problem.
Mhm.
And it hasn't happened.
I
Because
just
they
look
keep approaching it anecdotally.
I just looked at just the difference in dollar amount from what they supposedly did wrong compared to what they actually have total. And that should have sent off a red flag and somebody shouldn't have got involved in that. Then you can make the conscious effort that, yeah, they did it wrong, but that didn't happen there, obviously. And I mean, there's a little bit of variance, maybe 3% or 4% or something like that, where you can adjust that, write them back a check and it's done. But 50% of that total, I mean, you're talking about appraisal value of $112 million that have to change that equation significantly. I mean, I'm not a mathematician or anything, but that's just common sense, is it not?
You would think. I mean, and part of that problem, you hit on something that's also a common theme in these cases. Almost every one of them starts from the premise when the appeal is brought by the business that believes it's been overvalued, they ask for a 50% reduction
Right.
in the value. That's
Plus
just-
the
that's
interest,
almost-
plus.
That's almost, and
That's
how
just
can
what
there
they-
be the
that's just their
same,
starting
the
point.
same overvalue everywhere?
Yeah.
That's a little hard to believe
Right.
when you've got individual entities, individual appraisal systems operating, and all going towards a goal, that statutory measured, parameter that they have to meet, or they're in trouble and have to take action. It has had no traction whatsoever. And I don't understand it.
Oh, I do. But it really has nothing to do with dollars, just for the record.
But the thing is, I say, can be optimistic, but if the Supreme Court had upheld it, it would have made it even, then it would have been
really bad news.
bad. I mean, because then the cases would have.
Well, then the pre-rule would have been set in stone.
Yeah.
Because once the Kansas Supreme Court interprets a statute, which it was doing here on fair market value, they can rewrite statutes.
Yeah.
That then, even though the statute has not been changed one bit, then what they said in that decision, if it applies, it's the law.
And like I said, it may, optimistic, possible that it'll help, but if it had gone the other way, it would have been really bad.
That's, to me, a perfectly
Bad
logical.
precedent. Yeah.
I definitely hope you're right, Greg, and I'm wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ditto. But
Well, enjoy the good decision, because we'll see what happens.
See, yeah. Take what, a year or so to see how far that goes.
It'll be a while. I don't know if it'll be a year, but.
See what their next, see how they rule, how voted
you
is.
look at our list here, I mean, there's some all the way back from 2019 still. So that
Yeah.
backlog is.
I would think they'd move this up.
I was
the
gonna say,
line.
will they make that a priority?
I think they would. They'd almost, well, I can't say they have to, but it would, from the agency's point of view, I would think they wouldn't want that just sitting out there.
Yeah.
And it's gonna, I would assume, move up towards the front of the line because they've got specific instructions from a court that had authority to tell them what
Do
to do.
this, yeah.
And so I expect they'll get to it pretty quickly. Now, how long that decision will take, that I don't know, because that may take a while.
Yeah, we
But I
learned
think,
that.
they'll-
It took-
I think the parties will be in front of BOCC fairly quickly.
Commissioners, none for Mr. Ron
Go
Fear.
ahead, Ron.
Morning, Ron.
Good morning. Good to see
Morning.
you all. That's, I was gonna lead off with that myself.
Okay, well, we'll continue the conversation then.
Obviously, it's, you know, I think it's good news in the fact that they did remand it back. And so I think, obviously, the debate will continue and obviously there's forces outside of the state that have an interest where they've been successful in other states in continuing that theory. And so I think it is good that the Supreme Court said, hey, you know, that each case can be different. There may be a case where that store, I mean, we have examples in Topeka before some of the redevelopment where shopping centers did sit empty for a long period of time. And much like post-flood for Village Plaza West. So that's a big difference than, you know, an active big box store that other companies are paying a premium to be near for the traffic. So those arguments are individual in our case, and they're not this standard theory. And I think that was some of the stuff that was pointed out. And I think you're right, Clancy. I mean, it gets back to, you know, if you're going to start this process to grant a certain benefit in classification, then maybe you should look at the whole classification system. And that's a big can of worms, I know. And there was a time when BOCC wasn't as political as it is now. And they did more broad case by the actual example as opposed to a certain theory. Yeah. Anyway, y'all know that situation better than me, but I guess it gives us a fighting chance. But I don't disagree with Rich either. I'm not going to go bet some money on anything like that. That will prevail. But I guess it is be interesting, and I didn't see I don't know whether it's been announced, but since this is such a unique case, does it put all the other cases that are pending on hold till it's resolved?
Well, and that's what I was trying to address in the question. There's no guarantee, but I would think they'll get to it. They're not going to put this, I can't imagine they'll put this at the very end of the line.
Yeah.
They have specific instructions from the Supreme Court to rehear it. And so they know that when they do that, I would think there won't be an immediate hearing because I assume there may be, maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe there won't be attempts to file additional paperwork in this by the other side. But just have to see how it goes.
Sure. I know.
I don't think it'll go to the
some
end.
pending, right?
I'm sorry.
You've got other appeals pending.
We do, and a lot of people do.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
So I just don't think it'll be put at the end, and I think they'll get to it fairly.
And is BOCC at full strength?
Not as far as I know. I think they're still having the executive director. I can't keep their title straight, but there's an executive director position, and that person has been sitting in to fill in the currently third empty seat, I think.
Yeah,
That's the last I knew.
I don't think they ever made an actual confirmation. I might be wrong.
No, they had a couple of them that didn't make it, so didn't make it through the Senate.
All right, well, I'll switch subjects. Wanted to give you a little update on our storm cleanup continues from our early June storms, and probably will go in well into next week at least. So it's we made that decision from the initial tornado related storm. We kind of picked our sequencing based on where we saw the most damage. And at that time, the northeast part of the community was the lightest hit. And then we had the following Tuesday storm.
Yep.
That took care of that and actually made them one of the worst hits. So we haven't, they were last on the list, and normally we would have got there sooner, but it's a struggle, a lot of damage out there.
I live over in the Northview area. I
So
did
we
see.
appreciate your partnership with the transfer station. being able to open that up. I know a lot of people did take care of their own stuff, and that's helped some. But it's a mess. We're continuing just, the last Friday we had, normally on a spring cleanup, where we do a week's worth of cleanup around town, we have about 511 loads. As of the end of last week, we already had 561. So that number's going to be probably 3 times what that normal number is. And a lot of times, usually on a storm like that, we'll have physical damage of buildings that might qualify for some disaster relief, and then the debris cleanup can come in and be added to it. But we didn't hit that threshold. So we're not likely going to get any assistance from some of that. And obviously, the fuel's a lot higher and everything else. So that's adding to that. But crews are hanging in there and making some progress. We're out in the northwest, west side of town. Southwest was a little harder hit, so they should finish that up either today or tomorrow. Move into the northeast area next week. So work continues in Aggieville. Focus there has been on North Manhattan Avenue. So keeping from Fremont to Bluemont, replacing all of the and upgrading all of the utilities there from water and sewer and all individual connections to businesses, as well as that different work. We did kind of enter into a new phase where we've been closed to northbound traffic between Fremont and Laramie. We did open up a stretch where you can now come in on Laramie from 14th Street and get to North Manhattan. There's a little stretch of North Manhattan that's open from that portion of Laramie to Morrow. So you could travel in that way. And then also Little Morrow is open now. So if you want to come in off Anderson, you can at least get to the main Morrow Street. The new section that's closed is basically from Little Morrow to Bluemont. Again, that big main we're tapping to add a larger water line down North Manhattan is out in the middle of the Bluemont Anderson intersection, North Manhattan intersection. So that's why that's clogged off. And later they'll be getting out there to impact that, trying to get that section done before school starts.
Okay,
So that's our goal. And hopefully things will cooperate to allow us to do that. Other activity, I think last time I told you that at the time the garage was complete and we had determined on a parking rate. And so a lot of our equipment that we're going to use to enforce the parking has been back ordered and supply chain issues. So we've decided to keep it free through the end of the year. And that'll even after we get the equipment, which is supposed to come this fall. Now, remember, we don't have a gate or anything like this. Is all going to be optical video detection. So video mounted on vehicles that will not only patrol both parking garages eventually, but also downtown Aggieville where we have hourly rates in place, and they'll do a read of the license plate. So instead of the person chalking tires, much more effective, can do much more type of work. So that'll be an issue for us. And so just getting all that equipment and software in and the vehicles, actually waiting on the vehicles for that. We just awarded them. So that's the plan. And so anyway, that's what we're working
Is all the security from both parking garages and potentially a third located in the Aggieville parking garage structure there? So you have the security room.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what it's called. But
Yeah, I don't know if that's we have more security cameras in the Aggieville garage. We only have just a few cameras but we plan to throw that garage into that management component in the future. Whether or not we start charging for that one we still have gates down there. They've always been up.
Yeah.
But that's the intent. There'll be some additional work in that. Other aspects of that commission, just part of the Midtown project, which is the city parking lot that we signed a development agreement with Back Nine and their development team to do that 5-story that I showed you pictures of last time I was here. That design process is continuing as part of that improvement project. Remember that 12th Street between Laramie and Morrow gets turned into a pedestrian plaza, permanent, but will allow emergency vehicle access. And so that design is underway. And then also we're replacing the alley from 12th to Manhattan that's adjacent to that site. That's one of the heaviest utility alleys that we have. And so we signed an agreement with Evergy to put everything underground there. There's 3 different phases and types of power in that alley alone. So they're going to consolidate all that and streamline it and convert everybody to one type of phase in that alley and modernize all of those connections. So they'll clean that up tremendously and create a better atmosphere there. We had planned to replace the alley anyway. We've got some other utilities there. So while that's torn up, they'll put all that underground. That design process will continue, scheduled to come back to the city commission later this fall for consideration on the final designs for that. We're also doing Laramie between 12th Street and Manhattan as well. It's a part of the public improvements on that aspect of things. The city commission has concluded all of the necessary actions for the Museum of Art and Life and that project, and they've moved forward to authorize and issue up to 25 million in star bonds. Recall that that's different than the star bonds we issued in this issuance. We have a development agreement that requires the development group to be fully responsible for repaying that debt. There's no obligation for the city to repay any of that star bond debt whatsoever. And so that there's a little bit of plating work that's got to be done on some of the property exchanges. We've got some utilities we're relocating because we're vacating a portion of that alley that they're developing on, and that'll go over on Houston Street between 3rd and 4th. So you'll start to see some activity there, and then they're planning to have a groundbreaking later this fall, and I think they're shooting for the spring of 24 to be flooded open for all their construction. Levee construction's continuing, and I know you probably have heard about that with the closure we made starting this week down at South Manhattan Avenue. So looking at a couple months there through August, I think is the plan. So basically what they're doing there is that's a sandbag closure. It's never been a real good sandbag closure, and the only time we had to do it was in '93. But so they're reconstructing the kind of the abutments or the sill to make that sandbag operation more efficient whenever it happens. And so that's the work that's being done there with as well as there's a little bit of a raise on the levee sides as well. So that's the focus there, trying to get that done. And obviously folks are going to have to rely on Rosencutter for a while to get to the transfer station. So hopefully that work will continue to go well there. In that area, we got some other utility work, 15th Street between Fort Riley Boulevard and Yuma. There's a 4-inch water main there. Now we're going to upgrade that to an 8-inch. And so just we have some water quality issues in that neighborhood. So we're upgrading our main size as well as our fire flow capacity. And that's one that's been on the list. That one should only take about 2 weeks, we hope, from that standpoint. Other levee work that we're doing is out by the wastewater treatment plant along the Blue and the Kansas rivers. We're putting in a new gate in the levee right there to the west of the wastewater treatment plant. Of course, that's from basically that area back to Casement is where the largest rise in elevation of the levee is going to occur, an average of about well, at the maximum, that's about 3 feet. So adding a lot more, still doing a lot of utility relocates in the area as well, but that's where the most of the volume of the truck traffic is occurring there at that location. The North Campus corridor on the edge on Kimball work's progressing pretty well there. The contractor that's between Denison and College are moving to the next phase, their final phase there. This will be a new intersection at the grade science entrance and rowing. That'll be a signalized intersection. And so that's the final piece that they're working on as part of their project. Everything to the west of there is pretty well done. We changed some traffic around for access so that there's two-way traffic to get to the agronomy research area from that point. Everybody else has to kind of come in from behind off of Denison to reach that area. So as well as they can still come down Kimball and get into the foundation buildings, obviously. So that's continuing well. The construction on the other half between North Manhattan and Denison is going well. Also, the goal is to have that stretch of Kimball open to at least 2 lanes of traffic by September 1st. So everybody tells me that that's still looking to be the way we should be able to be. It may be better than that, but that's the minimum that we would anticipate. Other items related to that is we have the design for the final big project of the North Campus Corridor. That's the intersection of Denison and Kimball, there by the headquarters fire station in NBAF. That's probably at least a $10 million project. And so that will connect where they're working now there at Green Science, and then where they're just to the east of the access point for the NBAF deliveries. And so that's the extension to the intersection itself, plus north to where we stopped on the Denison, where we all did the joint project together for the Denison and Marlette, and then south just past the NBAF main interest off Denison. So new signals, wider intersection, more turn lanes, pedestrians, access on all 4 corners. So big modernization project there. So plan is to design that and bid it probably mid to late next year.
Was supposed to be a couple of ride share lanes or something involved in that?
So not there,
Okay.
not ride share, but there's a transit parking, bus
Okay.
drop off in front of the Bill Snyder Family Stadium
Right.
on Kimball.
Okay, so when you get to that point, there were supposed to be 2 gates.
For eastbound.
Right,
traffic.
okay.
Just like there is, it's bigger than the one on College in front of the baseball stadium.
Okay,
It'll be
Gotcha.
similar to that.
okay, gotcha.
Coming up on some city commission agendas, that design contract is scheduled for July 19th. Also on the 19th, we have a benefit district petition that we've been working on for quite a while, and that I think your health department referred some of those prospects to us, and this is out on Stottle Road, across the viaduct. Remember, we have a sewer main there, and so we're looking at forming a benefit district for some folks that actually front on the highway as well as along Stottle Road to bring in a subsystem to connect to our main. So that's proceeding well. And should be, we finally got all the signatures we needed for the petitions. Also, we've opened bids yesterday for our annual asphalt contract. Schilling was the only bidder, as usual, about a little over $1 million yesterday for our, again, that's our annual asphalt work. Let's see. Coming up in August, we've got some items that you may be interested in. It's about every 3 years, we update our international building codes to the newest versions. And so that process has been going on where we've been meeting with all of the construction groups and trade groups for that. And that discussion has gone well, and that's tentatively, and this would be the 2021 version of the international building code. And so that's always a year behind. That will become forward for consideration. And then we had the award of the runway reconstruction project on there. We had that bid opening here a couple weeks ago. We had 6 bidders for that project, which was amazing. The engineer's estimate was north of 43 million. The low bid was 26.9 million. So we're very pleased with that. The bids range from that 26.9 up to 43.3. So that was encouraging to say the least, and there were several around that 30 million mark. So That was, and most of these are very large contractors that work on large airports. So I guess our timing was right to hit their schedule. So that project will move forward. Remember, most of that work and the construction of that main runway replacement is next late spring and summer, early summer. So that will require that closure of the airport completely for multiple weeks. On August 9th, we have a work session planned with the Manhattan Housing Authority on the proposal to utilize a city parking lot down near across from their Carlson facility. They're working on it. I think they're on they're proposed to be on the city county agenda this month to preview everybody about some of their plans, but it's tied in with we've applied and we have got the final paperwork, but we've been generally preliminary approved for a FEMA buyout grant for the Garden Grove units that are on Garden Way that have been flooded and impacted a couple times. So National Church Residence has agreed to cover our costs to match that FEMA grant in order for them, and they want to build a facility. Carlson Plaza for the Housing Authority has some issues, and the HUD is working on the process to privatize a lot of their housing, and so they're working on some tax credit applications. It's pretty, I think, will be interesting to see what they've got proposed. And again, I think that's coming up at the city council meeting this month. In September, we anticipate having the work session on the housing market analysis this summer. We're working with stakeholder focus groups in conjunction with the chamber and others. And then ultimately they'll develop some recommendations and bring those forward in September. The city commission this past Tuesday did pass a resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate. Should be getting that notice shortly. We did get direction to, one of the things that kind of changed with this revenue neutral rate, which I'm sure you're aware of, is they gave us more money to finalize, or gave us more time to finalize the budget, but yet they moved the date up to when we had to set the maximum mill levy rate. So it really isn't more time. And so anyway, our commission gave us direction to keep the mill levy flat at 52.143, and told cities the RCPD budget that was approved was just a little over a mill, so they told us to absorb that. So out of that, about 1.8 million in valuation growth, which is about 5.9% for us overall, we're going to get 90,000. So we'll be working on how we absorb that as we go to that September date to finalize the budget. We're still very much into developing our budget, and so there's more to come on that particular aspect. So that, happy to answer any questions you might have.
What's the status of your shops? It's looking pretty impressive. Driving by, I drove by there the other day, and it's pretty impressive looking.
They're doing well. I think they're on schedule. So the original schedule is to have those complete and move in the February, March of next year standpoint. We did get, we pre-ordered some traffic signals for that Levy Drive intersection with US 24. The plans are complete. KDOT's approved them, and those should be to bid soon to signalize that intersection. The signals are warranted even without our additional traffic that will be added to it. So it's been a need and something for that. KDOT came through with a nice grant offer for us. I don't know if I reported, but we did go out for bids for our land that's down on South Juliet. And part of the goal was to use the proceeds of those sales to help buy down our cost of that facility. And we had multiple bidders on both tracks on either side. And I think it was about 1.5 million that Howie's submitted for that. So, pleased with that. Of course, they can't take possession till we move. Construction is going well. Fortunately, in the early part, we were able to get most of our orders in before things really started to get crazy on supply chain. So that's been helpful, but yeah, thanks. It's proceeding well. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron,
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ron.
Have a good one.
Commissioner, next you have Amanda Webb at 11. Then the fun. You're not smiling, Don.
I don't know. Everybody says I don't have a poker face. I'm trying.
Well, I thought we were gonna adjourn early.
Oh, that's right. We did make that plan. That's right.
We can do that as well.
It's just gonna make it harder.
Shortens our timeline
Yeah,
a
it's just
little.
gonna make it harder on us later. you
Right,
know,
yeah,
so.
it doesn't solve.
And not
anything.
much later. It's one of those things you just can't hide from.
Yeah.
That's just all like to.
Absolutely.
Did I hear that right? You're leaving us?
I am.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, I attended my 2 weeks to the station yesterday. I'll be going up to Omaha.
Good choice.
Why?
What's the,
I
what's the
don't-
job? Was it a job?
Yeah, it's communications manager for the Nebraska Arts Council.
Congratulations.
That's okay.
But don't be wearing any red. Don't be wearing any red and all
All
that
hustlers
crap.
all the time.
I promised Steve Smothers I'd be wearing football on
Okay.
Mondays.
We expect to see
Monday days,
pictures.
Every other day red.
And you're gonna be working behind enemy lines.
Oh, gosh, you're going to the good life. You don't even know what to do. That's so great.
Get an umbrella.
Rare storms. A lot of lightning.
I was gonna say, there's no rain. You won't need an umbrella. There's no rain up there.
Well, I did spend a summer across the way there over in Council Bluffs, so Omaha has, yeah. We never crossed over into that other
I'm
side.
sure you did. You would have had to.
The only thing I did that summer, I remember clearly in Omaha, is we went to the zoo and we
Yeah.
saw the College World Series final at
Yeah, do
Rosenblatt.
great things in
Yeah.
Omaha, yeah, absolutely.
I was up there a couple weeks ago. That's when the College World Series.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
exciting.
I didn't realize how close Iowa was.
Yeah, literally, it's just a little,
Yeah.
just a little open section there and boom, yeah.
Yeah, no, I went to the movies while I was up there and I was like, oh, there's a theater 2 miles away. Let's go to that one. And then I'm crossing this highway. It's like, welcome to Iowa.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
Well, if you just drive past the airport into downtown, you cross into Iowa and then back into
Yeah.
Nebraska, so.
Oh.
My stepdad's actually from the Council Bluffs area. His family and stuff's there, so I spent a summer up there many moons ago.
Then I was walking and I was looking at the signs, like all the attractions. I'm like, oh, they got a zoo here. And then I'm like,
They have a
no,
heck of a-
duh, you've been to it.
Yeah, they have a nationally rated zoo there.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's still to date probably the best zoo I've been to, and that was the first year they had the lead jungle up there, so the 7 jungles of the world, and that was the first year it was open, and yeah, it was pretty cool. You can walk there, you
You've
can.
never been there?
Never been
It's a
there.
short drive. It's
I know,
nice.
we talked about when we were in Leavenworth, even closer.
You need
But we
to.
Never just.
It's a
No, the
very nice
jungle's
zoo.
cool. The desert dome is
Yeah.
super cool. I mean,
Never made
it's
it.
really,
For some reason. I
it's
don't
pretty
know.
awesome.
And at
That
the
one's
time,
walking
it actually
street,
sat
though.
right
It is-
down
it's a
behind
little hilly,
Rosenblatt,
so-
so we spent the day at the zoo, and then
Right over there.
I went watch baseball the night of, so.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, it's a very nice zoo. Yeah, I really like the aquarium.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think my family's there today, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All the kids, all the grandparents.
Nice.
Glad to be. That's a big group.
Vacation for you, huh?
Yeah.
Being here?
Oh, those are fun, I bet. Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, I would think.
Steve, thank you.
I always think budgets, but I think that'd be fun to like sleep by the animals. Yeah.
Amanda? I'll leave it there.
Good morning again. I am still Amanda Webb, planning director.
Good to know.
It was a little bit ago.
You look familiar.
I was thinking, we changed hands or something in the midst of that. Did I miss something?
All right, so what I have before you now is a different kind of request for another environmental specialist position in planning development. So of course, as you, I am sure you remember, we did request for the 2023 budget another full-time EHS position equivalent to Gary Piper, everything that he does now, that same job description we have, register, all of that sort of stuff. We did make that request. That is still what we'd like to do, but Elizabeth and I chatted a little bit and wanted to offer an alternative should the full-time not be able to be approved. We wanted to talk about another potential option so we could get something in there rather than if it has to be, if it can't be the full-time rather than nothing, if we can get something in there. And so that would be an as-needed environmental health specialist. So again, we kind of looked at this, that it would be more of an entry-level position, if you will. Obviously, as needed is up to that 1,000 hours per year, so definitely that part-time. So having somebody a couple of days a week, or how we would figure that out. Of course, that would need to come if we could do that. But again, more of the entry level. We wouldn't have them necessarily do things as technical or in-depth as Perry does now. It would probably be a situation where, of course, lots of different things could be trained, could be learned on the job, but definitely have them starting with some things that would be a little bit easier to start with, if you will, with somebody who has some background in environmental health, be it some combination of education or experience. So they're not somebody just off the street, not knowing what it is, but again, doesn't necessarily have to have all of the qualifications that we require of our regular full-time EHS. So again, so we included, just want to look at that really quick, I'll scroll down. So we included some potential job duties here. Again, Elizabeth and I have talked about this. I've talked with Perry about it. Again, these are some more entry-level-ish, if you will, things that folks could learn pretty quick and pick up pretty quick, especially if they have some background already in environmental health. So these are the general duties we would have this position perform. And again, a lot of that's just assisting Perry, taking a lot of these sorts of things off of his plate so he can focus more on the more advanced, more technical, more involved sort of pieces of the environmental health services that we offer. And just scrolling down a little bit more here in your packet, but again, we talked about the different education, knowledge, experience, skills. All of this is pretty similar to what we have in our current job description. We've lightened a couple things up because again, for the knowledge and experience in our current job description, it says advanced knowledge of some of these different things because they would be doing, again, more advanced work, especially out in the field, especially with wastewater systems, alternative systems, et cetera, those sorts of things. So we lightened that up a little bit because it would not be the expectation that this particular position would, again, would do some of those more involved advanced things. So we wanted them to at least have some basic knowledge and basic experience with that. The education is the same. Again, a lot of the knowledge and experience is the same. The skills are the same, but the one difference that we did put in here is a combination of experience and education that we would consider in lieu of the degree. So that's, again, trying to be a little bit flexible if we need to be with this one, because it is a little bit more entry level, as I mentioned. So
I just wanted to clarify one point. Elizabeth Ward, Human Resource Manager. You've heard Amanda refer a couple times to entry level. I want to clarify that that's entry level within the responsibilities of environmental health. So this is not an admin assistant entry level. This is someone who has to be qualified to do the job duties in environmental health. So they would not be the final overseer of all of our program. That would continue to be the full-time person, but they would be acting on their own to perform these duties. So I just want to make sure we're not confusing maybe like entry-level non-environmental health with like an assistant position versus an actual person who would be expected to perform 20 hours a week on their own. And again, it's just, it's presented as an option of possibility that would be able to assist in that office, assist with the workload, but would not be at the full cost and the full commitment of a full-time person. And you'll remember, I didn't bring the exact number from the full-time person, but it was over 70,000 because that would have included full-time hours and benefits as well. So this is significantly less budgetary impact.
But it'd still be more than that. I mean, you still have some, the costs are more than 23.5.
Oh, no, for this would not have benefits. This would be an as.
Well, but you still have social security, unemployment, work comp.
Well, right, this would be the salary. You're correct. You're right. So we'd have 7.75% for those other.
Is that what they are?
Yes, you're right about that.
Because you don't have the big pack, but there are, you still have some, mainly like social security.
Correct. Yeah, but 7.75% more than what she's taking.
So it makes it about 30, right? I mean,
You talk about.
Yeah,
total
I guess
fiscal
estimating
impact.
that.
Yeah. So
And I can easily get you that exact number. Yeah, you are correct. There are going to be federally required benefits that we have to pay there.
Yeah, I had a question. The amounts you have here, 23.53 an hour, that's as needed, but then it looks like you just multiplied it out to get 23.530 annually. If it were 40 hours, that would be around 48, close to 49,000. For 20 hours, it's going to be close to 25,000. So I'm not for sure where you got your numbers on and what kind of hours we're looking at. And if you could clarify that, I would appreciate it.
Sure, I can respond to that. So these hours would be a maximum of 1,000 hours annually. And so that actually turns out to be 19 hours a week. Generally, we do allow our as needed to work 20 hours a week because they end up taking a week or 2 weeks off during the time period and it balances out. But the hard set maximum is 1,000 hours annually.
because that's for benefits. That's the deadline for, or the
Correct.
cutoff for benefits.
Right, and so that's how we defined our as needed positions. And there are, the majority of our as needed positions at Riley County are gonna be like a clerical position, like an as needed clerical or an admin assistant. However, we do have 3 positions that are similar to this with advanced degrees and advanced responsibilities. So we do have an as needed engineering position in public works. It's not currently filled, but it's budgeted. And we have a similar position in the attorney's office if they would need legal clerk type duties as well. And so those are positions that are still limited to the 1,000 hours, but we do have to pay for that education and skill set.
Well, just so the commissioners know, the total cost with the 7.5 added is 25,295.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
So, 7.5%.
And I would suggest in the future that we
7.5%.
Include that benefit,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the idea. Yeah, and
include
we
the
would
total
always do
cost
that
of
for
what,
full-time.
what any position is gonna actually be, regardless of
Yeah.
full-time, whatever.
Yeah, that's a fair, we've always do that for full-time, but we always think benefits for full-time and
Yeah.
all that, so no, fair suggestion.
So this is something we need to consider, not approve today.
That would be our request, yes, I think I guess you have the purview to make a decision as well, but with the other positions that we ask for additional positions, you ask for time and you would make a decision at the end of the budget process, and so we wanted to put this in as an alternate option for an additional position.
That's what I thought, just to add it to the list that we already had of 3 or 4.
Right, and it wouldn't be both.
Right, yeah, and but not for a decision necessarily today, but an additional consideration when we get to that point.
Yeah, that was our expectation. Obviously, you have the purview to treat it however you'd like.
Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and be honest about it. still unknown. I'm just not wanting to add positions at this point in time, whether it's as needed or part-time or full-time, considering where we're at budgetarily speaking. If we needed to continue to contract said services, then we're contracting to get the actual service, but really it doesn't impact Riley County in any way, including the extra 7% and hourly wage and everything else that comes with it. And it's probably going to be a little bit more than that potentially, depending on where we go with some other stuff salary wise. But like I said, we don't have to make that decision today, but I'm just being clear about it.
If we would add it to the new positions list, we'll come
Yes, absolutely.
the budget process for the board to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next commissioner, you have Darrell Beatty at 11:15.
See too well.
Exactly.
I saw him last night.
I understand. Am I really seeing this?
Yeah.
Understand.
You need glasses. These
These
show,
read
these
numbers
read too
high.
big numbers. These read the numbers way too big.
Agreed, agreed.
It's just making it worse.
Yeah, I already said no, but. It's like I have any authority to say no to anything. But I heard you talking back there. Tommy.
No, and I was doing good for you.
It seemed like you might have been talking smack back then.
No, not to you, though. To Shiloh.
Well, Shiloh, she could do whatever she wants.
This is the color of the bag. Picture.
That's not what I said.
I just associated with it as.
That is not what I
Just
said.
across the board, let's just get that.
Do we need a referee in here?
David's starting stuff again.
No, actually.
It's not the first time and it won't be the last.
Actually, Shiloh started this one.
Don't make me turn this.
It's like having kids.
See if I bring her more in then.
My goodness.
Send it elsewhere.
I think she does. I think the department's get it.
Wow. Good luck there, all. I don't know if you can keep this crowd.
I know. Until I say, no different.
You're on, Daryl.
Okay. Daryl Leedy, Budget and Finance Officer, and this is our first work session on the budget for 2023. You've heard all of it from all the different departments, everybody, of what they're wanting to do and what's going to be happening as far as they're hoping. This is combining it all together and comparing it to the last 2 years, where we're at. I've highlighted kind of a reddish, orangish color, whatever it is. Those that are really high in their percentage increases, and I can tell you what some of those are. Like the top one being the appraiser's office. We had talked earlier, they're expecting to do more cases for dark store and have to do more research and things like that for this dark store theory. You know, Walmart just may have lost, may have won, I'm not sure. And we've had a couple others lately that that's going to go towards the emergency management. We know of, we've got the, it was just actually, it's not like a $20,000 increase. That dealt more with a couple of every other year items and I forgot what the other, equipment repair that was anticipated coming up. The 7988 figure actually includes the ARPA and what's left of CARES funds, which actually isn't there. It's actually been spent for personnel purposes, but we can still use it for other things if we need to. And of course, the 14 million that's already been allocated really to other big projects like the ambulance station that we have set up. On line 17, the noxious weeds, and actually on the public works, both of those, there's been a large increase due to, we were afraid were gas prices and stuff that were going up, or we've seen go up from the almost $2 to $4.50 currently. So that was built in for asphalt and for gas and those type increases as well. And I think that was the big ones I had. A couple other things we have to consider during all this. We did the 0.5% sales tax. It goes off in December, starts the new 0.2 cent sales tax. We had promised the smaller cities that we would reimburse them for that portion. That's going to be I think it was $58,506.57 on average, thanks to Shiloh. So we're going to have to reallocate that. I'm thinking it should come out of economic development funds. That sounds like the most sensible place to put it. But there are some funds actually in the budget right now that we can move it over to there right now.
What needs to be clear on that is it is not budgeted for at this
Right.
time. So if we, wherever we pay it out of, we'll have to add that approximately 160,000 to, and the commission's gonna have to decide at some point too, are we gonna do it based on, Shiloh did a great job on giving us all the years averages of total dollar amount, but we also have by percentage. So how do we want to do that each year is a decision we're gonna have to make, but we will have to at least budget a lump sum to cover that for 2023.
Also, under your personnel portion of it, what we have in the departments right now only includes step increases, not a COLA increase. I have that separated out on line 28, and I think that's adjusted a little bit more again. But right now, I've set aside 1.7 mil for a COLA increase as well. There's also a couple places down below have increased quite a bit. One, the ATA bus went up from 100,000 to 135,000. Also, 38, the community corrections, we had talked about that, 69,195 because of salary increases to add in. And also, something you're going to have to make a decision on quickly is the extension funds. They went from 599,645 to 671,594. It's a 12% increase as well. I can give you one good news. Read the finances this morning. Crude oil has gone from its high of $120 a barrel. Currently today is 102, and for some magic reason, in November and December, they're expecting it to go down to $65 per barrel, which will help.
What month was that again?
Around November, December, they're talking.
What year?
Yeah.
This year, they're talking this year for some magical reason.
Just to be sure the commissioner is aware, because Gary's here, is you have to make that decision.
Today.
The 10th day is Sunday, so unless you want to have a special meeting on Sunday, make a decision today to accept or deny, and when you deny, then you are telling an extension, go back and give us a different figure, and if that's the direction the board goes, you might want to give them an idea of what you're thinking about, or they can just come back with whatever they think they can do, if you do not accept today, but that does need to be determined today, one way or the other, by statute.
That's the big parts on the expense side, and going down to revenue. And of course, a lot of those numbers come from Shiloh and Treasurer's Office. There, the motor vehicle taxes and all that good type stuff. Also some fair fees. Other at the current time, it also shows our current mill levy difference from last year is 2.122 and an increase of 3.3, which of course both of those would indicate we'll need a R&R.
Because
Letter.
it's well over 4 for that, correct?
Right. For that is 4.66.
Oh, it is down.
For it. There.
Okay.
That's there on that page for you.
Yeah, we added that.
Okay.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
So just,
2.12 over last year's mill levy, but
Right.
over the R&R 4.664.
Also, just so you know, we also put the ARPA funds that we received on the side.
Mhm.
Here's that funds on the side.
so just to be clear, line 28 is not currently included in the budget.
It is, but it's a separate line item.
Okay.
Yeah, it's included.
It's included in these totals at the bottom.
Right, it's all included in that dollar amount, because it includes everything to line 57 middle of it. Section. Okay, your total expenditures is 63. So to help you make those decisions. Also, a couple things probably ought to take note of. We need to put some CIP funds in there for the RCPD range cleanup as well. That may be as much as 200,000. And also, we do have one other cemetery that was going to have an R&R letter as well. Take note of that.
We just publish that when we publish ours, commissioners, for the cemeteries.
Yeah.
And that's typical.
So,
One important thing the commission need to be aware of is by this new Senate Bill 13, we have to have, you, the commissioners, have to give me your R&R rate by July 20th. So as Ron Fear was talking about, the city passed theirs, and pass it, and from that point on, you can reduce it, but you can't raise it. It's similar to the previous budget process. Like you said, it just moved the timeline up because you could do that before. Whatever you published it at, until the hearing date, you can always reduce the budget. I always feel it's best to have a pretty good idea and be pretty solid where your budget is when you publish it, because I think it can be misleading if you don't to the public, but it's up to the commissioners on how you want to do that. But that being said is, depending on how fast the commissioner can work through this, we may want to have some special sessions in the next week, because July 20th is getting here rather quickly. But it's up to you guys on how you want to work through the budget process. But we do have to have it semi-finalized, definitely finalized for this publication by July 20th. Because we have, our office has from July 21st to August 10th to get that mailing out.
Yeah, I have some comments or some not necessarily questions, but when when we were in the salary discussions and the cost of, COLA, I felt that our main objective this year in the budget was to raise our salaries up and, take care of our county personnel. And I'm concerned about publishing a 22% increase in our budget, which is not only the COLA and the salary increases, but a lot of other increases. It just seems like, it's got to give somewhere. And the only couple places I can see where we've got to look at, the extension office, I believe, needs to take a look at their budget again, because their employees, I believe, are state employees. So they should have gotten some increase there. And they do a lot of great work, but that kind of increase is pretty high. The outside appropriations, I think that's probably a place where we're going to have to make some hard decisions on outside agencies that don't benefit the entire county, that benefit only, say, one special area of the county or the cities. I believe our job is to take care of all of our county agencies and our county employees. And that's kind of where I'm looking at, where do we cut? And if we have to do some other sessions, that's fine. It just is, it's an awfully big budget, especially when we increase all of our salaries, or we're intent on doing that. So that's my comments. And I'm thinking all the departments need to go back and look at their budgets and cut as much as they can out of any kind of costs that they can.
Go ahead and go next. Okay. I didn't want to interrupt in case you were, I couldn't really agree with that anymore, to be honest with you. And it is rather large, and majority of it is salary. That's fine. I think collectively we looked at that and said that was our priority. Mm-hmm. And I think it is our priority, but in order to accomplish these means, then something else no longer can be a priority. We can't have it all. We just can't. And, we've got a couple other things I think still need to be added to this. As we talked about and the small community appropriation is almost a higher priority at this point in time, because we promised that. Yeah. And that question came up last night as I met with the Ogden City Council. I'm sure you've heard the same thing in the other communities, and we sold it and got it passed based off of that. And, that promotes the professionalism and integrity of our own organization there. So I can't walk on that one. Right. In the grand scheme of things, that's a lot less than I anticipated. But once again, Shiloh's much better at math than I am, thankfully. So that's okay. But that's something that we have to take care of, whether we have to do that out of the general fund or economic development fund, or however we need to transfer that around. At the end of the day, that has to happen. And we have to be clear that, and I like how you said we, maybe not collectively, but we have the objective of taking care of the entire county as a county, not just Riley County as an organization, although we have that responsibility and duty too. So as we work through this, if indeed salaries and taking care of staff is important, And we need to focus on what then isn't important and what we do to back that back up. And in some cases there, I don't think we're taking a strong enough look at that. Like I said, Rome wasn't built in a day, so we don't have to have all this figured out today. I think it's going to probably be going back to the R&R discussion. Well, going back to the R&R discussion, I mean, it's almost 2 mils lower than it was last year, wasn't it? It was 41 and some change last year. And now it's down to 39. So that's actually getting tighter. So, that's something that's kind of out of our control. I think it was like 41 and some change last year.
Well, and see, that's the thing about the R&R, that's what the legislature did, and
Right.
they do it intentionally.
Right.
Each year you get farther out, it squeezes local governments more and more, and that was part of the intent.
Right.
That's why it's impossible. It's just frankly impossible for larger units of government at least. And even some of our smaller ones, like cemeteries and townships are saying,
And
we
that's
still have roads to maintain.
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen there. That's why at some point in time, not this year, obviously, they're going to have to go back and take a hard look at that, because I think overall, those smaller local units of taxing authority are really where that's going to stress. And don't know what the answer is to that yet, but somebody's going to have to figure that out. But in terms of where we're at right now, that 2.1, just way too large for me. The percentage is just way too large to me. I understand costs of gas and materials and some other things, and I'm willing to give a little bit in that equation, but way too large. In some instances, just each departmental budget's way too large.
After you make your comment.
No, I was the same way. What I had in my mind trying to jump through, if I knew revenue neutral rate isn't going to happen.
No.
But I would like to see us try to get back to this, keep the same mill as before. A couple things. One, that there's still some questions on salary adjustments that need to be made, but that has to be done, pretty quick, to make this work, because there's some different options of how that's going to be done. And we need to get those, because that could have a big effect on this thing.
Pretty good effect on that.
Yeah. And I agree, I just think we need to find ways to cut it.
I might take Commissioner Folke's first thought there of maybe just keeping the outside agencies, which is line 29 through 38 flat. And then coming back with an updated, I think we're having another session on Monday, right?
Yep.
Coming back with that adjustment, if we're okay with that. And we could still play around with that a little bit, but that moves the needle at least some. And then we need to take a hard look internally at some things as well. Typically send that back to the budget and finance planning committee, and they usually come back with some recommendations after said fact. And it's probably obviously in the process time to do that too.
So you're saying 29 through 38, want it a zero rate?
Zero increase, so keep it
Well,
flat.
we have to hold on and see if we have a consensus among the board.
Yeah.
to that. So
Right,
hold on.
yeah.
So that commissioners, staff knew, and our full intent was we knew we had to budget something to transfer to small cities. It was never the intent to not do it. The intent was just to get direction from the board on where to do it from. So we always knew we had to do that. So we will add that in if that's okay with the board to the Economic Development
That
Fund,
sounds like a fair.
which increases that transfer from general to Economic Development Fund on that first page, just so you know,
Right.
that's how it works. And then also, yes, we'll need to know if there's a consensus among the board to have all appropriations flat. Of course, you can't do that with RCPD, but the others that you can.
Well, I'm going to mention there as part of that discussion of what some cuts we can take out of the building fund and the maintenance fund for that to help offset it. I don't have a number in mind, but to help offset that almost 9%. That's just where it's going to have to come.
And just so you know, there is building maintenance monies in the RCPD fund for those facilities. And so, yeah, if the board wanted to cut any there, and John, you might want to have some input on this, on if there's some room in there to reduce or not.
I'm not saying we have to do that one today, but that's something to be thinking about as we kind of work through the budgetary process here.
And that was my other message, Commissioner. Today was just your first blush to look at this, not to make a bunch of decisions, just to look at it, digest, kind of give a message to the departments on what direction you want us to go. The sooner you give the departments and the budget planning committee is, okay, we only want the increase to be this much, or we want to decrease this much, the quicker we can start getting recommendations to the board on how we suggest ways to consider to do that.
Except the extension, we have to make a decision
You
today.
do have to make that decision
And
today.
I
That's the
do-
only one that has to be made today.
I do have a thought there. Take it or leave it or whatever, but I know the last couple of years, we've kept them flat. Obviously, and for the record, their employees aren't state employees, actually. So that is something that we have to consider. I know their cost of doing some programming and doing those things have increased substantially. You do work on a pretty small crew and get those things accomplished. The fair is not an easy thing to put on and get done. You're asking for 12, we've kept you flat. I'm moving in the neighborhood of somewhere between maybe 6% on that. So,
Cut to half.
yeah,
Try to.
that would be the direction I give. And I guess if we have to follow the current protocol, then I would deny the request as it's been presented and maybe go that direction on that to help offset some of those things there.
Do we have to make a motion for that?
Yeah, you do need to.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion to deny, I don't know how to do it exactly.
Well, basically, your motion would be to deny the current request and ask the extension council to review the budget in line with your recommendation.
That right there, that's my motion.
Does that mean?
So that's the only time I'm ever gonna do that, Clancy, so have fun with that.
Yeah, kind of joint. Okay, it's over with.
Keep the power.
You're on mute, Catherine.
Catherine, you're muted.
You're muted.
I'm sorry. Several months ago, we had a presentation from Extension about doing some consolidation with some regional other counties. And how is that is that in here, or is that going to affect it further in the future?
The Extension Council has chosen not to pursue that any further, Commissioner Fogarty, so we will not be forming a district or trying to.
Okay, thank you.
It'll just be Riley County.
Okay, well, it's seconded, so.
And moved and seconded to reject the extension budget for revision, send it back for revisions. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There was another thing on the ATA budget about that they had used ARPA funds. I can't remember exact terms. They had used ARPA funds to increase their budget last year. And then what was that, Clancy? Can you?
That
It was actually CARES funds.
Yeah, and that was 2 years ago, and that helped offset. They actually gave us a reprieve on the budget that last year that was in 2020 for 2021, with the expectation that we gave them back their full appropriation last year, which we did. That didn't make sense probably, or didn't make sense to me, but.
Well, that's probably
Because we
why,
cut it
if you
back.
look back in the 21, it was 70,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had been 100,
Then
went
last
down to
year,
70,
it was
and then
back
back
up
to
to
100 last
100,000.
year.
This year, you're back up to 135.
They used the CARES money that was available to them specifically, and then gave us back that money so that we could reappropriate it or do what we needed to do to help kind of stem the tide, with the expectations that we would come back, because that was one-time funding and then give that back to them in last year's budget that we're now currently in.
Okay, which was $100,000.
Correct. And I think if you remember her presentation, she said the majority of that increase was basically transportation related, personnel and gas.
Yeah.
So 35%, $35,000 was that, yeah.
And actually, the largest one on there by percentage is actually corrections. But we've already
Yeah, that's huge.
discussed that, so we know where we're at.
Well, and there's some on here, some that aren't on here, like downtown Manhattan and the chamber and all those. Are they going to be on our next worksheet?
You're under economic development.
They're under economic development, I thought. aren't they?
They are.
Oh, that's what I thought there's, yeah. there's-
And we can bring that. to the
Yeah, I can
next
bring that
meeting.
to you.
Okay.
That shows all of those appropriations.
Okay, yeah. I
Okay.
thought there's another list somewhere under these. Yeah. I had a question there on the CARES Act funds. That shows nothing for 21 and 22, but we did get money there. And I was been
You
confused.
actually got the funds from CARES Act then, and you reappropriated it to salaries.
Oh,
If you see commissioners on the first page is where you can see that the 2021 contractual general services typically around 1 million, but 22 it went up to 11.5 million. 11.5 million, that was that first tranche of money that we got.
Oh,
7 million added in there. And that's why he has that highlighted in that 20 million. And something I heard actually came in this morning, which is somewhat concerning the taxpayers and me, is when it's presented like that, Riley County showing a $15 million increase. We got 15 million in federal funds is why the increase, but it's budgeted in here. It is increased, but it's not ad valorem taxes increase.
And that's
It's
the same
federal
thing.
funds.
And that's the same thing at state artificially. They have
Right.
larger than usual surplus and budget rainy day fund for the same reason. And keep in mind, between the two budgets there, that will split because that 7 million came
Right.
two different times, two different years.
Yeah, so it shows on this
Yeah.
thing, it shows 7.2 last year, 14 for this year. But, so there was just that 1.9, is it left over or not? You said it's left over, but it's been allocated.
Well, we reallocated it to salaries. I think it was EMS salaries, if I remember right.
Right, and we just had talked to, Daryl and I had a conversation with Matt Hanson. He's a representative from Widow O'Brien's just yesterday on several topics, and this was one of them. And he says, yeah, that's what he suggested to us, to write it off the books for last year. It's monies that weren't to a specific project. So he says that money now becomes part of your general. He said a lot of ways that entities are handling that is then use that for capital projects. That's what it's meant to be used for, or salaries. I mean, was the intent of that being set aside. I think that 1.9 million could solve the issue of anything going to CIP.
Mhm.
Therefore, we have a $1.8 million transfer in here that more than covers it. So there's some different strategies to get that reduced. What I think I'm hearing from the board, that 2.2 mil, that's over 2 mils there.
Mhm.
Reduction.
Right. Yeah, because that basically it's 1.5 million to 2.1.
And of course, then we have the full amount of the ARPA funds available, which of course, we've identified Keats, given some money, we had given Fairmont some money for that project. And then of course, the priority is the EMS ambulance, the Riley County
Public safety.
Public Safety, David Adams headquarters.
No, we are not putting David's name on there. That ain't happening.
Thank you.
And then the North County ambulance are the
Right.
priorities. The North County one we know already is coming in at over $1 million, which none of us on that committee that have been working on it thought it would have been that high. And I did not think the new facility, the new central facility, was be near as high as what I'm afraid it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so my message when people have come to us and talked to us said, yeah, you can submit your request, but I can tell you the commissioners aren't going to do anything until they have a good, comfortable feeling that they have enough money
Those
to
two.
cover those two.
Yeah, we'll go, yeah.
So we're keeping a list of those requests. When I'm saying,
Right.
I've had a couple, what do you think your chance? Well, your chances are good to get on the list, but here's the commission's priorities, and it is your
Yeah.
priorities.
Yeah.
Right.
And if we have leftover money, we have some secondary
Yeah.
priorities at that point in time too. That it'll be difficult to get taken care of if it's not available. It may still in the secondary end, so.
Probably one of the other places you ought to look at is the line 38. As you did approve the 22 this year, they requested 69 next year for salaries and et cetera as well. And I don't know if you want to think about somewhere in between there or.
Like I said, on all of these, we have time to think about it. This is just you guys to first look at them, not necessarily make decisions today. on everything other than what needed to be, and that was extension.
Yeah, I believe I've scheduled time for Monday and Thursday next week both, so.
Correct.
So I would ask the board to really look this over and ask us for more detailed questions in between. That way we can have the answers for you prior to the meeting, but at least be prepared in help to give us direction on where you want to end by the next meeting. That way we can, or if you're ready to do that today, do it today, but we wanted to give you guys time to look at those figures.
I would like to have time to look at the figures. Of course, I haven't been there for all the presentations, and I'm filtering through and going through all the budgets, presentations that I have. And I'd like to have a little more time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we are, at least for me anyway, I got this in my hands mid-morning yesterday, so it's been really only 24 hours, but I've had 3 of these prior, and some of the things doing the processes haven't changed, so we're just doing a little later in the summer.
I've got the total I felt correct ahead.
That's when you hit your head.
Well, that one I'll accept.
I don't think anybody's intention was, we have to have a decision today.
Right,
Wait,
right.
We just,
I mean, we got all the way till technically October 1st or something, isn't it?
You do,
Yeah.
correct, you do, but I think it's always, like I said, best to, whatever we send out in those public notices to all taxpayers, that we be as close as we can be. Because no sense getting information out there that might upset someone if that's not where you're gonna be at.
might also comment, that was yesterday mornings. I think we had a couple of changes in the afternoon.
You did. I didn't print this off till this morning, so,
Okay.
and I was looking at it off the phone, and
That'd be hard.
That's hard.
yeah, I'm getting a little older, and doing that just isn't working quite like it used to. So yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I printed mine yesterday afternoon, so I guess the changes from today are not on there.
Most of them would be on the second page on the revenue side.
Yeah, you put
Okay.
the revenue neutral information on there, which
Yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah.
So in the packet for each meeting, we'll have the most updated version, and the next one will have the economic development one that shows the appropriations, and we'll add in the appropriation for the small cities. That amount we need to add in economic development, and also on this front page, increase the transfer in general
Right.
on both sides.
We do have that 250 in there for the budget stabilization as well.
It's in.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's in
okay.
there.
Well, that number
It's
seems awful
under-
high.
It's under general services.
Okay, okay.
That's, it's hard to find 250,000 and 20 million.
20.
I thought that looked unnaturally high. I thought, okay. I'd probably make a suggestion that we forego that one this year and go ahead and take that out. And that'll make up more than enough a difference for the other transfer going in for the smaller cities.
That it would.
Yeah.
That it would. So the board understand what Commissioner Ford is talking about in our policies and our financial policies. I was gonna say procurement, but financial policies. The county's policy is to add $250,000 to that budget stabilization amount on those monthly reports that I give you guys. I think we're at $3,050,000 right now. So that would put us at $3,300,000. It is a good policy to have. I mean, there's good value in putting that there. There's a reason why locally, and even we stack up pretty good nationally, why our bond rating is so high. For the first time in my career, we've always had a high bond rating. We even got a higher one this last year due to, they always look at what do you have set aside as a rainy day fund, for lack of a better word. And a big part of that is that $3,050,000, also that $500,000 that we have in CIP. Because they know that bonds and temporary notes are protected in case the economy goes haywire, that you have money to help continue making those payments. And so that gives them security. And so that's part of the reason, other than they also look at how the local economy is doing, businesses coming in. And those are conversations we have via phone with Moody's. And so it is vitally important. completely comfortable if the commission wants to hold off for a year, but it's not something you want to do regularly.
Yeah, I don't want to
because-
change the policy up, but I just think with the increase of cost, that's actually more of a short-term emergency than anything else we can plan. And I understand we put that policy in place after 1993, but thankfully we haven't had to use it. We've had plenty of opportunities where that may have been viable for things, but I think for 1 year will be more than okay to help offset some other things in our process.
So is that a consensus from the board to not increase the budget stabilization by 250,000 for 2023?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So let's take that transfer down, Daryl.
But for the moment, I don't have any other changes at this moment. So I have a chance to kind of comb through it a little bit more in depth.
I did that for Shiloh, I guess, but on the motor vehicle taxes, and you basically, adjusted it a little bit. Because part of those taxes are in value, so they adjust the value, because like we discussed with them, used car prices have gone way high. Is that shown in there? Does that adjust in there?
Because the property tax is actually calculated on a depreciated value, so.
That doesn't, okay, that's why I was getting.
The cost, the only thing that would, it would increase would be sales tax,
A little bit of
because
sales.
people are buying cars at a higher dollar value than,
But the taxes it's not on,
it's not.
it's not
based
adjusted
on-
like the property taxes are. It's on a set fee, right?
Correct, it's,
Yeah, okay.
they're depreciated.
Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't.
I mean, look, that keeps going up like used cars.
Yeah.
That's all for me today.
No, yeah. That's good. To start.
And so I encourage all you commissioners, as you look at it over the weekend, if you have any questions that we can help expedite, the process, for the upcoming meetings, send Daryl and me the questions, and we'll try to have them answered for that meeting rather than delaying it more, but it's fine if we get additional questions and you need them for the next prior meeting.
Okay.
Step one.
Yep. We got a few more.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner, appreciate it.
I don't have anything else.
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, me either.
With that, then I'll make a motion that we adjourn the July 7th, 2022 meeting of the Riley County Commission.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?